Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei got teleported and made new harem and Akame got kill movie. Before we start, please go support Draconarius23 for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistaken character's gender, but of course Issei is a male. After winning the rating game against Sekiryuutei, everything calms down for a while. A few months later, the Gremory and Citri groups are sent on a mission. Everything was fine until Issei ends up being the victim of a spell that sends him to another world. Now, not knowing where he is, his only path is to keep going to see if he can find a way back to his world. Although in the world he is in, very dark things happen. The Sekiryuutei will end up involved with a group of assassins whose sole objective is to free a nation from the yoke of a tyranny that only profits from the poor. It is time for the Sekiryuutei to get his hands dirty with blood in order to save the innocent. Clarifications. This Issei will have his perverted side, but he'll hide it well, because once you lose your virginity and start to experience the good stuff, your hormones calm down, or at least that's what happened to me XD. Besides, he'll be more serious and won't have much qualms about killing someone, since obviously if he kills rogue demons or enemies, why not kill mere humans who are worse than shit? So this Issei won't hold back from killing once he finds out what those guys did. Issei knows how to use a sword thanks to extensive practice with Kiba and Zenobia, and his mastery of Ascalon surpasses even canon. In addition to becoming physically stronger, he asks Sekiryuutei for help with his physical training, because Baal is incredibly powerful. Issei has mastered the normal phases of his Triana mode, that is, those seen before he gains full control of the Queen, and can handle Cardinal Crimson promotion, C times C to some extent, though he would be exhausted after using it. Furthermore, thanks to the help of Akame and Rossweisse, he greatly improved his fire magic. I'm not very good at describing fights or specific things, but I'll try my best. I'm also not great at explaining injuries or gory damage, even though I've seen a lot of gore, both real and fictional, but I'll try to describe it in some detail. As I said at the beginning, this will be a harem. I'll upload the list after I have it ready, and this will be the girls from DxD, but only so you know who he is with up to the beginning of the story. I don't think they will appear, or I don't know, maybe some that could work in the story, I'll see later. Akame got kill, obviously, and I think I will put 2 or 3 from Akame Georgia Kill Zero, and some other series, both assassins, who are the ones that would fit the most, as normal girls. There will be a counterpart to Esdeath, in what sense? Well, if Esdeath is ice, then there has to be a counterpart, and that's where she comes in. Them Sakazuki or Akainu. A name for her, since I can't think of a single 1v. It just popped into my head suddenly and I thought why not. So there it is. Woman of lava and woman of ice, nothing could go wrong or so I think. Like Esdeath, she would be a general, and her power is obviously from a Tegu. It would be a demonic extract similar to Esdeath's, but from an opposite creature. I don't know why, but I like the idea. In terms of power, Issei could easily defeat several of the series' enemies. I mean, even though the plot helped him against Sekiryuutei, he beat the strongest young demon, so don't be surprised. If you've made it this far, comment present. By the way, I will update this story every week or week and a half, since I have to read the manga on some occasions to take certain points into account. Anyway, I hope you like the idea and follow the fic. 00, Another World. This story begins with a mission. The mission consisted of stopping a group of rogue mages who had been causing a lot of trouble in a town in northern Europe. After winning the raiding games of the young demons, the Gremory group raised their status among the demons. Issei completely defeated the physically strongest young demon, Sekiryuutei, and finally cleared his mind and confessed his feelings to the girl he loves. 2 months have passed since then. Months in which several things happened, but one of them was that the girls were more aggressive in order to be near Issei. Rias wasn't bothered by that, since she was now the first and knew that fighting was unnecessary, although the truth was that it seemed very strange to the only girl who had her eyes on Rias. The Keno Himejima. The Hexi Semidan Tenshi noticed that Ria's calmness towards the others when it came to Issei was something that didn't sit well with her. So one day he decided to follow the couple on one of their many dates. What a surprise he got when he saw them enter one of those luxurious motels. Without hesitation, he interrupted, and the two of them, well, one thing led to another, and that ended in a threesome. In those 2 months, Issei's hex life began and became almost daily, all because of Rias and now Akeno. Those two were too greedy, and she was grateful for her half-dragon physiology, which gave her enormous stamina, although they were the ones who ended up tired. Anyway, the other girls still don't know anything and that's for the best. The ones she's most worried about are Zenobia and Asia, since both of them have been contaminated by Ica. Now, let's get to the mission. This happened 2 months after the ratings wins. Issei was scheduled to be promoted to middle class, but everything was postponed due to the high level of activity the Chaos Brigade has had, making things in the supernatural world somewhat chaotic. Azazel sent that mission to some people. The Gremory group and the Citri group, along with Arena and several fallen angels and demons. The mission was simple. Go and arrest that group of renegade mages in order to interrogate them. Yep, nothing could go wrong. Or so they thought. Present. They were in a place in northern Europe, a forest in a location inaccessible to normal humans. In addition, there was a barrier erected surrounding a large area. Outside this barrier was the large group sent to stop those magicians. Rossweisse, being the most adept at magic due to her multiple studies on it, examined the barrier. Yes, this barrier will detect us if we enter it, and it is also harmful to demons because it contains a sacred element, Rossweisse explained seriously. Can you do anything about it? Rias asked her tower, who examined the barrier for a minute. Yes, it seems they made some mistakes in its creation, Rossweisse said after understanding the magic formula they used. Rossweisse quickly created a magic circle and began working to lower the barrier. He even looks like a hacker, Issei commented to Genshiru, who nodded in surprise. She's a genius at magic, it's no wonder she knows how to dispel the barrier, Akame said, amused by Issei's comparison of the former Valkyrie. And that's very surprising. I think I should ask him for some advice on how to improve my fire magic, said Issei, since although his magic was useful, he was useless at it. I could give you private lessons, Akame said, clinging to the brunette who smiled somewhat anxiously as he felt the black-haired woman's breasts. Genshiru felt jealous of Issei. He wished someone would treat him like that. Without knowing why, Momo and Haruko sneezed. Bless you, Tsubasa said to the two, who thanked her. Ice, Akame, behave yourselves, Rias admonished, watching her boyfriend and her friend flirt. Fufufu, don't be boring Rias, I'm just offering my help so that Ice-kun can improve his magic, said the black-haired girl smiling as Rias sighed. Haneko and Asia looked jealously at Akame, but it was neither the time nor the place to be jealous. After what felt like a few minutes, Rossweisse finished his work and the barrier dissipated from top to bottom. Alright, it's time to move on, Sona said seriously. Be careful, remember these mages won't mess around, so get serious, she said, and everyone nodded. Rias, my entourage and I will go this way. We'll take half of the army they provided us with as support, she said to Rias, who nodded. Sure, we'll go this way, so please be careful, the Redede said to her friend, who smiled and then nodded. Thus the two groups split up. They walked quickly through the trees of the place, and after a few minutes they began to be attacked. Everyone on guard, don't let them hurt you. Rias said, beginning to charge her power. And so the skirmish began. The magicians had summoned their relatives or some used reanimated corpses, implying that they were necromancers. Damn you, desecrating corpses to use them as soldiers. Zenobia growled angrily as she wielded X-Durandal, a thought echoed by Arena. This is unforgivable, by Michael-sama, I will send those poor souls to rest, said Arena, wielding Uticler. Zenobia and Arena began to attack the enemy. Fufufu, you deserve punishment for doing all this, said Akame in her priestess outfit, rising into the air to create powerful beams of holy energy. Akame attacked the reanimated corpses, which were destroyed by her rays. Biba, with his sacred demonic swords, attacked and destroyed all the corpses while defending himself against the attacks made by the renegade mages. There it goes, said Kaneko, lifting a large rock 5 times her size and hurling it at a group of mages who did little as the great rock crushed them to death. Issei, for his part, entered Balance Breaker and with his Ascalon, attacked all the mages, whose attacks made little dent in his armor. Take this. Dragon shoot. And the chestnut-haired man unleashed a powerful burst of energy that instantly vaporized all 15 wizards. Rias was with Asia, who was attentively healing the injured allies. Rias had recently been practicing an attack based on her older brother, but the downside was that she had to carry him. On the palm of the Redede's right hand, a large sphere of power of destruction was ready to be launched. Take this. Rias launched her attack against a group of rogue mages. The attack seemed slow, and it was, but that wasn't the problem. The wizards thought about escaping, but it was too late. A gravitational force was pulling them towards the sphere of destruction. It happened in 5 minutes, and everyone was consumed by the sphere created by Rias, which exploded creating a 5-meter diameter sphere that consumed everything at once. Everyone was amazed and terrified by such an attack, as the pale blood was clearly visible in the Redede. Impressive, Issei said after seeing his girlfriend and fiancé's attack. After a few minutes, the group managed to eliminate 100 rogue mages who came to attack them. They suffered no casualties, but they were wounded, and Asia took care of healing them with her sacred gear. They continued on their way, going deeper into the forest. Along the way they were attacked by more wizards, summoned creatures, zombies and other things, but everything turned out alright. These guys are really annoying, Issei commented, killing another rogue mage. It must be something very important for them to be so alert, commented Rias, who was standing near him. They continued to the very center of the forest, where upon arriving, they saw what it was all about. There in the middle of a large clearing, stood a group of 200 wizards and witches surrounding a stone ring about 10 meters in diameter. 5 wizards and 2 witches, dressed in red robes and goat masks, unlike the others who wore black robes, were reciting spells while holding ancient-looking books. Rossweisse, after listening to what they were saying for a few seconds, opened her eyes in surprise. "It can't be," she said, drawing everyone's attention. "What's wrong, Rossweisse?" Rias asked her tower. "They are reciting spells of ancient origin, from times before Merlin Ambrosius. Judging by the language, they are from ancient Mesopotamia," Rossweisse said, surprising everyone, since if we are talking about civilizations, Mesopotamia is the oldest of all and holds secrets that only the ancient gods knew. "Do you know what kind of spell it is?" Akame asked. "I can't say for sure, but I think they want to open a door somewhere," Rossweisse mentioned. "Door to the other side?" Issei asked, confused. "Like some kind of portal?" Kiba asked. "Yes, I don't know where they want to go, but we mustn't let them, lest they bring something dangerous into this world," Rossweisse said, because if there's one thing she's studied about ancient magic, it's that it's not only complex but also very dangerous in the modern world. "Okay, you heard her, let's not let them finish that spell," Rias said, and everyone nodded. And as always, Zenobia was ahead of the curve. Boom. The powerful explosion was heard after she used X-Durandal, killing about 30 rogue mages who were taken by surprise. "Zenobia, stop doing that," Issei yelled, as his surprise attack was foiled by the blue-haired girl with the green streak. "Sorry, it's just a habit," she apologized. They all sighed and got ready, as the wizards began to bombard them with elemental magic. "Don't let them interrupt us," ordered one of the wizards in red, and the wizards in black nodded. "Don't let them finish with those spells," Rias ordered, beginning to prepare her attack. And so the cataclysm was unleashed. These wizards were stronger than the previous ones, who were just potatoes. Apparently, they had the best ones nearby. The Gremory group was fighting fiercely against those wizards, although the bastards turned out to be stronger. The army assigned to them began to dwindle, with several being killed by the mages, although the mages also suffered notable losses. Issei gripped Ascalon firmly. His sword training with Kiba and Zenobia was very fruitful for him. Kaneko sent several magicians flying with her bare fists. Kiba cut some and impaled others. Zenobia and Arena were very well matched up, eliminating several wizards. The Keno flew over the area following several witches while casting elemental magic. Rossweisse attacked with all kinds of magic, making it difficult for the wizards to deal with the former Valkyrie. Asper was transformed into bats that sucked the energy out of wizards and witches. Rias used her power of destruction to eliminate several wizards and witches. Then the Citri group appeared with the rest of the army. The battle took a positive turn for both sides, as the enemies were retreating because of it. "Come on, we're cornering them now," Rias said, attacking more enemies. And so, little by little, the renegade magicians fell. The important ones were those in red robes, because they were responsible for all the disasters that have been happening lately. The wizards in red were busy letting the others sacrifice themselves. This ritual was important and they must not stop. Issei was making his way towards where the red ones were, since with Ascalon, he was killing all the rogue mages who stood in front of him. The others were doing their job, eliminating those they could. The wizards in red looked at the Sekiryuutei and decided to finish their work. "It's time," said one of the sorcerers. At that moment the books in his hands caught fire and their ashes fell into the stone ring. Then it began to glow with a dark color. And that's where it all began. The ring opened a black hole or something like that, it was like a dark whirlpool. Issei stopped a few meters from the sorcerers and looked at them. "What did they do?" he asked seriously. The sorcerers did not respond and quickly approached the portal. "Stop immediately," Issei shouted, running towards them. The sorcerers took out knives and without hesitation, pierced their necks, falling dead to the ground. Issei stopped and looked at him for a moment, but his attention was drawn to the strange portal. What Issei didn't notice was that the blood spilled by the sorcerers fell into some grooves that began to glow. "What on earth is this portal?" he wondered, carefully observing it. "Leave those questions for later, it's better to destroy it," now Drake told him. Issei nodded, it wouldn't be a problem. He charged a dragon chute and was about to launch it. The portal changed from black to blood red. Issei was surprised and didn't have time to do anything when the portal began to suck everything around him in. "Ice!" Rias shouted as she saw Issei being dragged into the portal. In desperation, Issei grabbed onto one of the edges of the stone ring. "Damn it, this thing wants to swallow me," I yelled, watching as several corpses and living witches were absorbed by the portal. "Use the balance breaker," Drake shouted. Issei entered balance breaker, but it was useless, the suction was too strong. "Damn, I'm not going to last much longer," the brunette shouted. Everyone saw Issei and several other things being taken inside that strange portal. "Saji, help Issei get out of there." Sona shouted to the blonde boy who acted by using absorption line to help Issei escape. "Issei, grab the line." Saji shouted, but when Issei tried to reach it, his hand, which was holding the stone ring, slipped out of its grip. "Ice." Rias screamed, watching in terror as her fiancé was sucked into the portal. "Damn it." Issei yelled as he was pulled through the portal to who knows where. Issei's admirers were scared, Issei's friends wanted to jump for him. But the portal lasted no more than 4 seconds before the hoop collapsed, unable to withstand any more pressure. Leaving nothing but a mess. "No. Ice," Rias said, falling to her knees as she watched her pawn and beloved being swallowed by that portal. The Kendo approached Rias to support her, but she was just as bad or worse than the redeed. Asia could only cry and Kaneko became depressed. Tiba was upset to see his friend disappear and he couldn't do anything about it. Rossweisse was sad. She liked Issei a lot and didn't like seeing him fall victim to whatever that portal was. Then one of the few surviving soldiers approached with something. "Excuse me, but you have to see this," said the soldier who is a fallen angel. Sona approached to see what she wanted. Rias was not in a condition to attend to anyone. "What's wrong?" the dark-haired woman asked seriously. "We were checking the bodies for something that would tell us where they came from and we found this," the soldier said, handing Sona a small plaque. Sona, upon taking the license plate, was greatly surprised. All because of the sign it had. "This can't be, the mass need to know about this immediately," Sona said, referring to the brand on the plate. "What's wrong, Sona-sama?" Kiba asked, seeing the expression on the dark-haired woman's face. "It's serious, Yudo-kun. Please bring Rias and the others. We have to give notice of 2 important things today," Sona said, and Kiba nodded. They all gathered and Sona created a magic circle to take them all to the Underworld. Today they lost a great ally, but they also received shocking news. 200 meters east of the place. On a mountain far from the point where the incident occurred, a man with mop-top hair tied in a braid and wearing a black suit can be seen. This man created a magic circle of communion to talk to someone. "What happened? Did the plan go well?" asked a male voice on the other end of the call. "Yes, the spell we created was a success, although it's unstable, but overall, it worked wonderfully. The Sekiryuutei was a good test subject," the man commented with a slight smile. "The Kaka, excellent, simply splendid, with this we can go to another world to conquer it. Well, come back, we still have many things to do before carrying out the plan," said the subject on the other end of the call. Of course, Rizavam-sama, and so the silver-haired man left in a blue magic circle with the same symbol as the badge that Sona took. Apparently, something will happen in the future. End of prologue. 01 News and on the way to the capital. Issei-san. The chestnut-haired man was floating inside a strange bright red vortex, still in his armor and without taking it off, since the bodies of the sorcerers, whether alive or dead, were torn apart by the force of the vortex itself. "Damn it, you rogue mages." Issei complained, unable to move properly due to the turbulence. He fixed his gaze on some spot, hoping to find an opening to escape. Which he found at the end of the vortex, as he saw a bright glow. "It doesn't matter where it is, but I hope it's not a crazy place," Issei thought as the glare completely enveloped him, blinding him. Above the blue sky of a place among the mountains, a portal opened and it expelled pieces of body and blood. Although Issei was later expelled, he saw that he was falling from a great height. If he learned anything, it was how to use the dragon wings he got with the armor, so he maneuvered to stabilize himself and perform Buzz Lightyear's legendary technique, gliding with style. After a few minutes of gliding, the chestnut tree crashed into the trees, falling heavily to the ground. "Ugh, damn it," he complained as he crashed into a tree. He fell on his back and his armor fell apart, leaving him only in his Kuo Academy uniform. "Are you alright, mate?" Drake asked. "I think so." Ugh, he spat out some tree leaves, damn it, and then he got up from the ground to stretch, listening to the bones in his body crack. Once he had composed himself, he looked around, noticing a lot of vegetation. "Where on earth did that vortex leave me?" he wondered, starting to walk forward as he noticed a dirt road several meters from where he had crashed. "I walked between the trees until I reached the dirt road." He looked to his left, he looked to his right, he didn't know which way to choose. "Well, this has to be resolved the old-fashioned way," he said seriously, and then he started playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo until he got the left-hand path. "What an incredible method," said Drake sarcastically. "So, did you know of a better one?" Issei asked. "No, not really," said Drake when he saw that I didn't have a better idea. "Well, whatever, I hope to find civilization soon, then I'll see where I end up," said the chestnut-haired man, setting off on his way. It was good that he still had the supplies he packed in case of emergency, all at Azazel's request, because of his anecdotes from his youth. And so the chestnut tree was lost in the distance, unaware that this world was darker than he thought. The XD universe hours later Kuo Haidu residence VIP room. 3 hours have passed since the incident and now everyone involved was in the VIP room. Sona Junto at Tsubaki. Rias and Akeno. Surzich's Lucifer. Seraphol Leviathan. Awakened Beelzebub. Why Azazel? They were sitting around a circular table, although everyone seemed serious, except for Rias and Akeno, who were still sad about Issei's disappearance. Surzich's, who was holding the badge that the soldier gave to Sona, had a completely serious expression. There's no doubt about it, those mages were involved with the Chaos Brigade, and it seems the last of their descendants is with them, said the red-haired personification of destruction, with great seriousness. There's only one person I can think of, and to be honest, I don't like them at all, Azazel said seriously. I think that there is still a descendant of the original Lucifer out there, although I also have suspicions about who it might be, Ajuka said calmly. Although there's also the problem of Ice-chan, because of that strange ritual, we have no idea where he's ended up, Seraphol said, worried about her colleague in the television industry. Rossweisse went to Asgard to investigate further what kind of spell those wizards cast, Rias said, still sad. Surzich's sighed. It bothered him to see his little sister sad, but there was nothing he could do. Rias, Akeno, don't be sad, everything will work out, Issei-kun will be fine, said Surzich's, looking at his sister and his queen. I know he's okay, it's Ice we're talking about, he's coming back, it's just that I miss him so much, Rias said sadly, not having the brunette nearby. Surzich's felt bad for her. Don't worry, if the pawn pieces weren't left where he was taken from, there's still a chance he's okay, Ajuka said calmly. He's right, Ice-chan must be fine, all we have to do is find a way to find him, but he'll be alright, he's the op-eyed dragon after all, Seraphol said in her childish manner. That brought a slight smile to Ria's face as she wiped away her tears. That's right, Ice wouldn't die easily, he still has things to do, Rias said, trusting her boyfriend. Yufufu, right, he still has to make me his before he makes Rias his, Akeno said, which annoyed Rias. In your dreams, Akeno. Rias shouted with a hint of annoyance that made not only Akeno smile, but also those present. Well, we'll be on the lookout for anything. This is very serious, and with Ice-kun's disappearance, something tells me they were trying to find a way to travel to other worlds beyond this one. So we'll keep the other leaders informed, Surzicha said seriously, standing up. I'll talk to the old man in the north and while I'm at it, I'll see what he's been investigating over there, Azazel said, standing up. You, princess, should remain calm. The young Sekiryuutei is fine, and that's all that matters. You just need to trust him, Ajuka said calmly as he also stood up. That's right, we still have a crossover movie to make together, so he'll come back safe from wherever he is, Seraphol said, standing up. Sending Ice-kun's parents on that Caribbean cruise was a good idea. At least they'll be away for 2 weeks. I hope we'll have found a way to bring Ice-kun back by then, Surzich's told his colleagues. And after saying their goodbyes, all the VIPs left the Haidu house, leaving the 4 girls behind. Rias, Issei-kun is fine. As Beelzebub-sama said, his pawn pieces are with him, which means he's alive, so don't worry, Sona told her crimson-haired friend. I'll try, but it's difficult when I don't know what might happen to him while he's not here, I worry about him a lot, Rias said, looking at her friend. You'll see, everything will be alright, and he'll be back with you when you least expect it, Sona said with a smile. I hope so, Sona, I hope so, Rias said. So the 4 of them left the room, and then Sona and Tsubaki went to their homes. Rias sighed and entered Issei's room. They had to be strong and wait for Issei. Take care, Ice, and please come back soon, I miss you a lot, Rias said, lying down on the bed she usually shares with the brunette. It will be a long wait. Elsewhere. In a village in Western Europe, hidden among the mountains. The large old-looking mansion can be seen. Inside, there are several people walking back and forth. In a room, being a kind of office. There were 3 people. Then the spell was a success, said one who is an albino man with a beard and wearing ostentatious robes. Yes, Risivam-sama, although the portal's fate is still uncertain, the destination can be fixed, and thus it can be used with complete freedom, said the man from before who had observed everything. It's a shame the Sekiryuutei was the victim, I would have liked to kill him with my own hands, said a brown-haired man with a lecherous face. This is Shalba Beelzebub, who was resurrected a few days ago. The albino in robes, who is none other than Risivam-Lavan Lucifer, smiled amusedly. Too bad for you Shalba, but anyway, with that spell I'll be able to conquer that other world, but first the pending plans, we have to capture Office to take her power, said Risivam, and the 2 of them nodded. Then they continued talking about their malevolent topics and those packs that we don't care about. Became Georgia Kill Universe. 1 day later with Issei. The day has passed since he came into this world. Now she's wearing another change of clothes. A black jacket over a red t-shirt and blue jeans with Converse sneakers. She's been walking the whole way and hasn't found much. Just some strange creatures that wanted to kill him, but nothing that Ascalon or a dragon chute could fix. He was grateful for his emergency supplies because it was thanks to them that he was able to eat something decent. "Ah, I'm already getting bored of walking," the brunette complained while holding a water bottle in his right hand. "Why didn't you use the armor? You could have gone faster with it," Drake asked. "We don't know where we are, so I think I can't waste energy foolishly, so that's why I decided to walk," Issei said. "But even so, you were able to use the armor and it will disappear when you see someone nearby," Drake said, shutting Issei's mouth. The chestnut tree said nothing and continued walking. When Drake saw that he had won, he did what he always did, he went to sleep. Issei walked about 50 meters further when, about 10 meters from where he was, a horse-drawn cart was coming in the opposite direction to him. And it was a man leading the horses while another man was walking beside him. Both were armed with swords. Issei dismissed them and continued on his way, even though the two men looked at him strangely because of his clothing. Issei was about to leave when suddenly the ground began to shake violently, frightening the men's horses. "Damn, another one of those things," Issei said, somewhat annoyed, when suddenly a creature emerged from the ground. "Ah, an earth dragon," one of the men shouted in fear. "But no creature is supposed to come out this way," said the other man, who got out of the overturned cart, the horses escaping in fright. "Earth dragon? Is that what that thing is called?" Issei said, confused. "What a disappointment, he's not worthy of being called a dragon," Drake spat. "And you? As far as I know, you spend the whole damn day sleeping," Issei said, teasing Drake. "And what do you want me to do in here? You'd better shut up and help those guys before they get killed," said Drake, and Issei nodded, taking Ascalon out of a sheath he had at his waist. Entering night mode, he disappeared in a blur of speed. Something he discovered is that Ria's permission for him to use the ascent was still valid in this world. Issei watched everything move slower. That's what happens when you reach great speed and know how to control your vision. Issei quickly approached the earth dragon and slashed it several times with his sword, which cut through the beast's skin like butter. He made 2 quick cuts and then appeared in front of the beast while turning his back on it. The 2 subjects were speechless, their jaws dropped, they didn't see when Issei appeared in front of them, as he was at a distance far away from them. Flush. They watched as the beast's 2 arms and head were cut off and its body fell backward, soaking the ground with blood. "Incredible," said the first of the subjects. "Dude, I don't know what you did, but it was fabulous," the other guy said. "Yes, it wasn't much, but are you both okay?" he asked them. "Yes, we were fine, there was only material damage," replied Subject 1. "Thanks to you for taking down that dangerous beast, we're alive. If there's anything we can do for you, we will," said Subject 2. "Well, since you mention it, could you tell me the nearest city? I got lost a few days ago and you're the first people I've met," Issei said with this expression. The 2 subjects got confused. "Lost?" asked Subject 1. "Yes, it's just that a few days ago I was heading to my hometown, but I ran into several of those beasts and I ended up getting lost in this forest for the last 2 days," Issei explained, lying. The 2 men understood. It was normal to get lost in these parts. "Well, along the path you were taking, which is where we came from, is the capital of the empire, although I don't think you came from there," said Subject 2, looking at Issei's clothes. "Oh, so I was already heading to a city. That's good. My hometown is east of the empire's capital, so I'll stop there first to buy supplies to resume my journey," Issei said, lying like a champion. The 2 men looked at each other, then their expressions changed to serious. "Kid, since you're going to the capital, you should be careful," Subject 1 warned seriously. "Huh? Why?" Issei asked, confused. "You haven't been to the capital before, have you?" said Subject 2. "Never," Issei said. "Ah, listen kid, that place isn't good to outsiders, especially those who don't know the place," said Subject 1. "Yes, you should be careful who you talk to or hang out with, or even who approaches you, because not everyone is as good as they seem," Subject 2 said seriously. Issei became serious. "Apparently, that capital city is a more problematic place than it seems. You must be very careful, as there are more dangerous beasts than that one in that place," said Subject 1, pointing at the earth dragon's corpse. "Here, take this for saving us. It's not much, but it will help you in the capital," said Subject 2, extending a somewhat heavy leather bag. Issei took it and saw coins of various colors, the most abundant being some of a metallic orange, some silver and some gold, all with a symbol of a crown engraved on one of the sides of the coins. "That's all we can give you, so good luck on your trip and remember, be careful who you talk to in the capital," Subject 1 said seriously. "Of course, I'll be very careful and take care," Issei said as he continued on his way. Well, it seems that capital city isn't a very nice place, judging by how those guys are describing it, said Drake. Well, not everything is rosy. It must be like that deep web thing. There must be sick people who use others to commit atrocities, Issei said seriously as he sheathed Ascalon and put the bag of coins in his purse. Well, like those two said, you have to be careful, you see, nothing is always what it seems, said Drake, and Issei nodded. Don't worry Drake, I won't fall so easily not again, Issei said seriously as he placed his left hand on his chest, remembering a certain dark-haired girl who had been tormenting him for a long time. Drake smiled. Apparently, his companion was learning from past experiences. So the chestnut-haired boy continued his journey, hoping that someone would find a way to take him back to his world. He already missed his parents, friends, and the girls. Little did he know that this dark world needed a good cleansing and that he would be a key part of a whole movement to end evil at its root. End 01. 02, Imperial Capital Part 1. 1 hour later. After walking a long way, Issei finally emerged from the forest and noticed that he was on a hill, or rather, the path was on a hill. In the distance he could see what appeared to be a large walled city with several sectors and a palace in the center. So that's the capital. Well, it's not as impressive as I thought, Issei commented, looking at the capital from afar. What did you expect? You've seen cities in the underworld and been in a floating city, so it doesn't surprise me that you're not surprised, said Drake, and Issei agreed with him. Well, you're right about that, but it doesn't change the fact that that city looks somewhat appealing, Issei said. After that he continued on his way. I walked for another hour, as I was at least 3 kilometers away from the hill towards the capital. And finally he arrived at one of the entrances to the Great Walled City. He passed through a checkpoint where they asked him what he was coming to the city for and things like that. In the end they let him go after finishing the questions, and he entered what would be the south entrance of this place. Ignore Tatsumi and imagine it's Issei. Well, it's a very picturesque place, he whispered to himself, looking at the long street that stretched out in front, several buildings in the pure medieval style, shops, street vendors, and to top it all off, the grand palace that could be seen in the distance. He walked and looked around. He looked at the people coming and going, noticing people of all different types and races. Besides, the clothing was of all kinds, so much so that he was surprised to see women with scant clothing or men wearing only pants walking around. It looks like something out of those fantasy worlds portrayed in an anime manga, Issei thought as he continued on his way. He was curious, since this place was very new to him, too new since it was obviously his first time in this place. He continued on his way, unaware that he had been spotted by a girl who was having coffee at a place near the entrance. Issei walked for a while without a fixed direction. Okay, what do I do now? He thought, looking around to see what to do. Then his stomach growled. Well, now I know what to do, he thought, going to look for a place to eat. All while being followed at a distance by a blonde girl. The chestnut tree continued on its way until something caught its attention. Such an act in broad daylight. He thought, somewhat annoyed. He watched as some men, 4 to be precise, dragged a young woman who appeared to be 16 years old into an alley. He noticed that everyone was unaware of that and shook his head in annoyance. He headed to the place to help the girl. The blonde woman who was following him saw what he did and denied it. That boy is a fool, he'll get hurt trying to be a hero, she thought, watching Issei near the alley. I'd better go and make sure he doesn't get killed. And so she quickly went to see what the brunette was doing. Issei entered the alley and walked a little way when he heard the girl's screams. No, let me go, please let me go. She cried desperately. Plop. Shut your stupid mouth, nobody's coming to help you. One of his attackers shouted. Issei approached and watched as the 4 subjects had her surrounded while she lay on the ground with a bruise on her cheek. Now you'd better use that mouth for something else, said another of the subjects with a sick smile. The blonde, upon seeing who was affected, became very annoyed but did nothing since she saw Issei was also annoyed. Issei had had enough of that. Hey, you idiots, leave the girl alone. Issei shouted angrily. The guys and the girl looked at him, the guys annoyed and the girl surprised. Huh? What the hell are you saying? You better get out of here before we hurt you, you damn brat, said the oldest of them all, who seemed to be the leader. We'll call him Stupid 1. Yes, you better leave before you end up badly for trying to be a hero, said Stupid 2. Issei didn't hear them and approached them. It seems that in addition to being stupid, you're deaf too. Go and teach him a lesson, ordered Stupid 1 to Stupid 4, who had a dagger. Of course, boss, said Stupid 4, facing Issei with his knife in hand. Listen, idiot, you better leave your things here and go before, but Stupid 4 didn't finish because Issei punched him hard in the face. Issei wasn't human. He was a demon, and as such, he possessed greater physical strength than a human. In addition, his left arm was that of a dragon, and the rigorous physical training he underwent granted him strength far exceeding that of a standard low-class demon. Issei's strength without the boosted gear was such that he could easily punch a hole in a 15 cm thick concrete wall. Although this time he held back because he didn't want to kill the stupid man. The stupid number 4 barely noticed Issei's fist when he felt the powerful blow that broke his nose, knocked out his front teeth, and slightly fractured his jaw and the front part of his skull. A lot of blood came out of the subject's mouth, who became unconscious before falling to the ground, while blood covered his mouth and came out of his nose. The 3 remaining idiots were amazed. They hadn't expected Issei to be so strong, much less to dispatch one of them so quickly. The blonde woman who had followed him witnessed this with surprise. Wow, he has potential, she thought, impressed, since Issei didn't look like someone who would fight. Last warning, either you leave her alone or I'll take it upon myself to make you all look like shit, Issei said seriously. The 3 fools were initially afraid, but stupidity prevails, and they believed that because there were more of them, they could defeat him. "Fuck you, brat, we're not as weak as you bastard," said Stupid 2 angrily. "We'll beat you up for thinking you're so tough just because you beat the weakest of us." Stupid Shout 3. The 2 idiots drew their weapons, a short sword by Idiot 2 and a scimitar by Idiot 2. "Well, you asked for it," Issei said, taking Ascalon out of its sheath. The blonde was surprised by the chestnut-haired man's beautiful sword. The 2 idiots lunged at Issei, who was waiting for them. They were very inefficient with their weapons, as well as slow. He had already reacted to speeds like Kiba's, who was a very fast knight, and he could see more or less how Sekiryuutei moved when he fought against Kiba, Zenobia, and Rossweisse. To him, they moved like snails. Now he understood what Flash was feeling. Without giving them time to react, he slashed their chests with great speed. The subjects fell face down on the ground with 2 deep cuts in their chests, but they were still alive. The stupid number 1 was scared. He didn't expect Issei to defeat those 2 with such speed and ease. "Now it's your turn," Issei declared, pointing his Ascalon at the stupid number 1, who was now completely wrecked. The girl took advantage of that and stood up, but she also did something that made Issei grimace. "Pam. Hiya." Stupid screamed 1 while holding his crotch. The girl gave the stupid guy a hard kick in the balls, who didn't expect that. "Oof, that hurt even me," Issei said, sheathing Ascalon and approaching the subject, who looked at him in pain and fear. "That's what you get for being a bitch," he said, and gave him a strong kick in the face that knocked him unconscious and left him in pieces. "Thank you for helping me, I really appreciate it," the girl said, bowing. Issei looked at her closely and was surprised by how beautiful she was. The girl has black hair, black eyes, and a well-endowed body. She wears simple clothes. "Don't worry, I just did what was right, but are you okay? Did those guys hurt you badly?" she asked worriedly, since she didn't know if they had hit her more. "No, it was just a slap, nothing more than that," she said with a gentle smile. "Thank goodness, but anyway, the important thing is that she's okay," Issei said with a happy smile that made the dark-haired girl blush slightly. Then someone arrived. "What happened here?" asked a female voice, having just arrived at the scene. Issei turned around to see who it was, looking at the newly arrived girl. "She's pretty, has brown hair tied in a ponytail, brown eyes, fair skin, she's short, has a curvy body where it should be, and a modest chest. She wears those outfits of some guard she saw, probably from the army." The strangest thing was that odd dog standing next to him. It looked like a stuffed animal or something. "So? What happened here?" the girl asked seriously, looking at Issei. "Sekiryuutei," the black-haired girl said, coming out from behind Issei. "Siesta, what happened to you? Why are you here?" asked the one now known as Sekiryuutei. "Those guys dragged me here, they wanted to abuse me, but he came and saved me from them," said the one now known as Siesta, pointing at the guys and then at Issei. Sekiryuutei glared at the idiots as the dog beside him began growling at them. "Oh, I see," Sekiryuutei said, looking at Issei and bowing slightly. "Thank you for helping her. She's an important friend of mine. I don't want to think what would have happened to her if you hadn't helped her," she said gratefully. "Like I told her, you're welcome, I just did the right thing and kicked those rapist bastards' asses," Issei said, and Sekiryuutei nodded with a smile. "You're good, not everyone is these days. I like you. I'm Sekiryuutei Ubiquitous, an ally of justice, part of the Imperial Police, and this is my partner Koro," Sekiryuutei introduced herself, smiling as she held Koro, who made some strange sounds in greeting. "Nice to meet you, Ubiquitous-san, my name is Haidu." Issei introduced himself to the police girl. "Nice to meet you, Haidu-san, and thank you again for helping my friend. There are very few people who act that way," Sekiryuutei said with a smile. "Yes, I believe it," said Issei. Thank you Haidu-san, really thank you very much," Siesta said, bowing. "Ah, just drop it, I simply did what was right, nothing more," Issei said, dismissing his actions. "But even so, without your help I would have been raped and worse, murdered, so thank you for helping me, I will be very grateful to you," Siesta said, as Issei sighed, but his stomach betrayed him. "Grrrr. Damn it, Issei said, embarrassed by it. I see you're hungry, in that case, come with me, I'll feed you, Siesta offered to the chestnut-haired man who, seeing her eyes, realized she wouldn't give in. Okay, let's go, Issei said, agreeing. Good, Siesta said with a smile, then looked at her friend. And you, Sekiryuutei? Are you coming? She asked, but the other shook her head. No, I have to take these criminals to jail, but thanks anyway, he said, frowning at the four idiots. Oh, that's too bad, but well, see you later, said Siesta, and she nodded. Sekiryuutei looked at Issei. It was a pleasure to meet someone who does what is right and helps people in need, Sekiryuutei said with a smile. Likewise, it was a pleasure to meet you and your dog, said Issei, looking at her and Koro, who was jumping up and down. That's how they said goodbye, and the chestnut-haired man went to Siesta, to whom he gave his jacket to cover the upper part of his clothes. Meanwhile, the blonde who was following Issei left him alone when she saw that he was accompanied. Well, I hope to see him one of these days, he has a lot of potential, she said to herself, going off to a bar for a drink. But Issei and Siesta. So, where are we going? To your house? Issei asked, looking at her. Something like that, she said, and Issei nodded. The two walked for a while, Issei looking at the different places along the main road, while Siesta told him the best places to shop and visit. The two walked to the upper part of this side of the city, arriving at the outskirts of what appeared to be a huge property with a mansion about 60 meters away. The mansion. There were several armed and well-armored guards watching over the surroundings. They arrived at a small gate next to a guardhouse where Siesta greeted the guards and told them that Issei was accompanying her. The guards kindly gave them access and she took him inside. Issei said nothing but looked around the place. He noticed male and female guards patrolling various areas, some practicing in the distance. Gardeners were tending the plants, some foremen were looking after the horses, and there were other staff members of the wealthy household. The truth is, nothing surprises him much, since he hasn't been surprised by anything since he started visiting his now-in-laws every so often at that enormous mansion that is the Gremory residence. Siesta took him to one side of the mansion, where several houses were located. Come with me please, Siesta said, leading Issei to one of those houses. Issei followed her as she carried the things she had bought. They arrived at the house after Siesta greeted some of the mansion's employees. Once inside, he saw that it had everything necessary for two people to live. Do you live alone here? Issei asked, putting Siesta's things on a table. No, I live with my cousin, we work in this mansion as maids, Siesta said calmly as she went to the kitchen. Please, take a seat while I prepare something for you to eat, she asked, and the brunette nodded. She first went to change and came out wearing a maid's outfit. Apparently, she would soon have to work. About half an hour passed before she called him. Issei went to the kitchen where the dining area was also located and was surprised to see the food on the table. Please, take a seat, Siesta requested, and Issei complied. She quickly served him his food with great skill, and then she too sat down next to him to eat. I did Akamasu, they both said, starting to eat. The first bite surprised Issei. This is delicious, said Issei, surprised by the taste. I'm glad to hear that, Siesta said cheerfully. Issei continued eating while enjoying the excellent taste of the food that Siesta prepared for him. It was the same as what Asia, Rias or Akeno prepared, although of course, her mother had a better touch in the kitchen. After 15 minutes, they finished eating. This was delicious, you're an excellent cook Siesta, said Issei, praising the dark-haired woman who smiled happily. Haha, thank you, I always try my best to improve, she said, smiling. Let me help you with the dirty dishes, Issei said, taking the dishes. No, let me do this, she said, wanting to stop him. I insist, you gave me this exquisite meal, so at least let me help you with this, Issei said, leaving no room for protest. In that case, I'll help you too, she said. So the two of them began washing the dirty dishes, having a calm atmosphere between them, something that reminds Issei of when he spends time with Asia. After finishing, Issei and Siesta were outside the house she shares with her cousin. But you really have to leave. You can stay here at least for tonight, Siesta said, sounding a little sad. I can't take advantage of your hospitality, you've already fed me and that's enough for me, Issei said, not wanting to cause any trouble. But you saved me there, I want to at least repay that by giving you lodging, Siesta said, she knew from Issei that he wasn't from the capital. The delicious food prepared by a lovely girl is more than enough payment for me, so you don't have to worry, I'll manage to find a place to spend the night, Issei said with a smile. This girl reminded him a lot of Asia. Siesta blushed at the compliment but still wanted to insist. Don't worry, I'm strong, nothing will happen to me out there, so now I'll say goodbye to you, it's not a goodbye, since I would like to meet you again, so it's a see you later Siesta, Issei said, smiling. Siesta was happy that her savior wanted to see her again, and she also knew that Issei wasn't going to accept her offer, so she gave up. Alright, I hope to see you soon Haidu-san, and please take care, the city at night is not a pleasant place, Siesta said to the brunette, who smiled. I know, I'll be very careful, and by the way, call me Issei or Ice, that's what my friends call me, said the brunette, and she smiled. Of course, Isan, see you later, she said, waving goodbye. So Issei said goodbye to Siesta and went back the way they had come, politely greeting the guards and then leaving. Once outside the mansion grounds, I walked to find a hotel or inn to spend the night. Later I would look for a way to make some money. Well, let's see what happens next, he said to himself as he headed towards the main street. End 0203, Imperial Capital Part 2. Moments later. Issei was walking down the main street looking for somewhere to spend the night. At one point he stopped to count his money and already knew how much he had. 567 bronze, 100 silver and 3 gold. In true isekai or fantasy style. So with his money now accounted for, he went to look for an inn at the main entrance. He walked along a path of lightning until he reached an inn. He went in and asked for a room. The price was 2 silver per night, with dinner and breakfast included. Issei accepted and went to his room. The room wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. It had the essentials. A bed, a nightstand, a wardrobe, a table in case I wanted to eat there, and a window that looked outside. He put his things on the table and sat down on the bed. She sighed and looked out the window of the place. You want to go back, right? Drake asked his friend. You have no idea, I'm worried. I mean, we're still at war with Chaos Brigade and we don't know what the hell they were doing that kind of magic for, Issei said worriedly. Yes, that's worrying, but don't worry for now, surely Azazel or one of his allies is creating something to bring you back, Drake told the brunette. Issei sighed again. I hope so. I'm worried that something bad might happen in my absence and I wouldn't be able to help, he said, feeling concerned for his friends and family. Relax, everything will be alright, for now focus on this place because this place is up to its neck in shit and bad stuff, said Drake, referring to all the bad guys that abound here. Yes, this place needs help, a lot of help, he said, frowning. This place is a rat's nest and a real mess. He threw himself on the bed, staring at the wooden ceiling, and closed his eyes. I'd better sleep for a while, he said, going to bed. Traveling a long distance was tiring, especially when he was bored. And so ends his first day in the capital of the Empire. The XD universe. 2 days after Issei's disappearance, Asgard. In Asgard, in a library belonging to the All-Father god Odin, Rossweisse was sitting at a table, reviewing several ancient books. She set herself the task of finding a spell or something that would help her bring Issei back, since she didn't like seeing the brunette being absorbed by that strange portal to who knows where. You look very stressed, dear Rose, said a woman approaching Rossweisse. Momer, Rossweisse said upon recognizing the woman. She is a woman very similar to Rossweisse, only with some wrinkles on her face, although they did little to diminish her beauty. She is Gondar, Rossweisse's grandmother and a famous Nordic sorceress. I heard from Odin-sama what happened to the young Sekiryuutei, apparently he holds him in high regard, Gondar mentioned, sitting down next to his granddaughter, looking at several old books on the table. I see you're very worried about him too, he said, looking at his granddaughter. Yes, it was very sudden, he was simply absorbed by that strange portal, and now we don't know where he is, Rossweisse said, sounding dejected. Although she won't admit it, she started to see Issei differently, since he's shown that despite being a pervert, he gives his all for his friends and cares about his loved ones. She finds that attractive but doesn't have the courage to accept it. That's why I'm investigating here, to see if we can find some kind of spell similar to the one used in that strange ritual, Rossweisse said, looking at the oldest books on the site. Ah, you're always so dedicated, that's what I like about you, my dear granddaughter. That's why I'll help you. That boy, although I don't know him, I can say that he's very important to several people, including you, she said, smiling as she saw Rossweisse blush. That's why I'll support you, since it's strange that they used magic of ancient origin just for a portal, she said suspiciously. I think so too. It's very strange that they used ancient magic. It seems that whoever used those magicians wanted to create some kind of portal that would take them to another world or something like that, Rossweisse said, theorizing about the reason for the portal. It may be possible, but let's focus on bringing your boyfriend here, Grundelles said, smiling at the blush that spread across his granddaughter's face. Brahma. Ice-kun isn't my boyfriend. Rossweisse shouted nervously and embarrassed. Grundelles just smiled and said nothing more, so they both started studying what kind of magic was used for the portal that swallowed Issei. Meanwhile, Haidu residence. I hope Rossweisse can find something, Asia said, sitting dejectedly in the mansion's living room. Yes, it's strange and somewhat lonely not having Ice here, said Zenobia, feeling the absence of the chestnut-haired man. I pray that he's okay wherever he is, I'm very worried, Irina said sadly, referring to her crush's disappearance. The three of them were sitting on a sofa in the living room, watching TV, but their minds were more focused on Issei than on the television. The Keno-san and Rias Onasama have been sadder since Ai-san disappeared, Asia commented, recalling the pair's behavior. Yes, we're all worried about him, Irina said sadly. Then a magic circle appeared, from which Azazel emerged. Azazel-sensei? Asia said, confused. Do you have any news about Ice? Zenobia shouted, looking at the fallen man. Azazel sighed. That wasn't good news. Unfortunately not, he's only been gone for a short time. We couldn't create anything quickly during that period, but we're working to find something that will help us bring Ice back, Azazel explained, and the girls just sighed. At that moment Rias and Akeno made their appearance, but neither of them looked well. Both had red eyes, and Akeno's gaze was partially empty. Azazel was surprised by that. He didn't expect to see those two in such a situation. It's obvious they love him very much, Azazel thought. Oh, Azazel-sensei, what brings you here? Rias asked the fallen angel. Do you have any news about Ice-kun? Akeno asked, sounding hopeful. Azazel sighed at that. Unfortunately not, he replied, making the girls feel bad. Understand, her disappearance was recent and we're only just beginning to decipher the runes that portal had. That's why Rossweisse went to Valhalla to help with this investigation. But between the Underworld, Gregory, Heaven and Asgard, we're putting in our best effort to find a way to bring Ice back, Azazel explained, and the girls understood. I see. Well, then, what do you need from us? Have more rogue mages appeared? Rias asked. No, actually, I'm here for another reason, Azazel explained, sounding somewhat uncomfortable, which clearly confused the girls. It's more to let you know that I'll be bringing some people here, especially one guest, and I wanted to see if you'd allow me to bring him to this house, since it's the only place I can think of, he explained to the girls. Well, this is unexpected, but who is this guest and who are the people who came with him? Rias asked, confused. Ah, well, these are people you might not like, but seriously, I need to bring them here because it's extremely important, Azazel said, sounding dejected. Rias and the others saw that as strange. Okay. Well, at least Akasama and Odasama aren't home, so yes, you can bring them here, but I hope this isn't too troublesome, Rias said seriously. She already had enough problems with Issei missing home and with Kaneko going through her heat, which was making her feel terrible. Believe me, everything happens for a reason, Azazel said. And when will you bring those guests? Rias asked. Tomorrow, Azazel said. So Rias ended up accepting and then, along with Akeno, went to take a shower. Azazel left to give the confirmation while the girls went to find something to do to distract themselves. Even with Issei's absence, things remained calm for the time being. Another universe with Issei. The next day. A day has passed since Issei arrived in the capital of the Empire country. He slept peacefully in the room he rented for the night and the breakfast was good. At least the people who worked there were nice. So he decided to go for a walk to get to know this capital better. He wanted to see what kind of scum he could find in the city full of vermin. I hope this day has something interesting to show me, Issei thought as he walked through the southern streets of the city. He watched people come and go, noticing several women looking at him, but dismissed it instantly, thinking it was pure coincidence. Unaware that he turned out to be handsome to more than one woman. He walked aimlessly, without a fixed destination, and along the way he stopped one or two idiots who wanted to be too clever, handing them over to the police, although he didn't trust them. After all, even in his world, a large part of the police force is corrupt. Then he arrived at one of the main squares on this side of the city. What a bizarre spectacle, Issei thought, looking with some disgust at what was in that square. It reminds me of what Catholics did in the 15th century, said Drake, who saw everything through Issei's eyes. It's terrifying, isn't it? A female voice spoke to Issei's left. Issei looked at who said that, greatly surprised for two big reasons. Enormous, possibly as big as Rias or Akeno, Issei thought, quickly taking in the huge breasts of the girl who spoke to him. It was the blonde who had been following him yesterday, who, upon seeing him in the crowd, decided to approach and speak. Not so much. Where I come from, this was done to non-believers in the god of a religion, although that was a long time ago, Issei said, looking again at the crucified people, feeling sorry for him. Oh, wow, that's drastic, said the blonde, surprised, as she hadn't expected him to say that. Why are they doing that to them? Issei asked, looking at the blonde. Oh, they are people who oppose the current government and that they are punished, tortured and then displayed in any of the squares around the capital, she explained, and Issei nodded. Well, I'd better go on my way, Issei said, walking away, but the blonde followed him. Do you want something from me? He asked curiously. Well, the truth is that I saw you around here yesterday and noticed that you're new, since I know everyone from the capital, so I thought maybe you needed someone to show you around the capital, the blonde said with a friendly smile. Issei looked at her, he didn't sense any hostility from her, unlike the others, whether they were guards or simple merchants, they gave off a dark aura or feeling of hostility, but from her he felt nothing, but that doesn't mean he trusts her, this city is too confusing, and its inhabitants are wolves in sheep's clothing. I don't know, why would you want to show the city to someone like me? I might be a bad person, Issei said, looking at her, but she didn't lose that smile on her face. I don't think so, you seem like a good boy, and believe me, I don't make mistakes with people, she said, smiling. Issei looked at her for a few seconds. What do you think, Drake? Issei asked his friend. She's telling the truth, but be careful because she's not someone weak, Drake told him, understanding. So? You accept that this lovely older sister will guide you? She asked with her smile. Sure, why not? I mean, it's not every day you meet a beauty who wants to give you a tour, I feel lucky, Issei said, smiling, and she smiled even more. Wow, what an extender, I like you, she said, smiling. Issei could only laugh foolishly, apparently the lessons on how to flatter girls that he received from Drake paid off. By the way, my name is Leon, the woman now known as Leon introduced herself to the chestnut-haired man who looked at her. I am Issei, hi do Issei introduced himself, smiling amiably. Well Issei, come on, I'll show you the best places on this side of the capital, she said, hugging Issei's left arm and placing it between her enormous breasts. Of course, I'm in your care, Issei said, smiling while holding back a perverted grin as he felt such large breasts. So the two walked through various parts of the capital. Issei kept a watchful eye on her the whole time, but after a while, he let her go, since she didn't seem to pose a threat. In fact, Leon turned out to be a very pleasant and cheerful girl, and they ended up at a bar that also served good food. Issei paid for everything, since he figured he could get more money by stealing from some idiot who was bothering him. So you come from the east of the empire, said Leon, holding a jug of beer and a plate of spaghetti with meatballs. Yes, I'm from the east, Issei said with a mug of beer. It's not that he drinks, but he does it to disguise it, and besides, it doesn't affect him at all, and he has the same food as Leon. Oh, and what are you doing here in the capital? Did you come here looking for the high life like everyone else? Leon asked, since all the villagers thought that life here was easy and they could amass a great fortune. Actually, no, I was coming from the south because I had some business to take care of, but on my way to my village some beasts attacked me and I ended up getting lost in the southern forests. If it weren't for two guys carrying supplies who were attacked by an earth dragon, I wouldn't have known I was getting closer to the capital, Issei explained while taking a big gulp of beer. Ugh, I don't like this, he thought, wanting to take a sip of the golden apple cider. Now that was good. Wow, so you're just passing through, she said, surprised that he wasn't there to stay. That was my plan, but when I saw that I needed money to return to my village, I decided to stay for a while to earn some money, Issei said, lying, since he had nothing better to do and didn't know how to get back either. Well, that sounds logical, since traveling without money is difficult, said Leon, taking a bite of his spaghetti. Yes, I don't have anyone waiting for me, so I'm in no hurry to return, Issei lied as he ate too. Wow, it tastes good, he thought, surprised by the spaghetti at this bar. What? Don't you have a family? Leon asked, confused. Well, no, I'm an orphan, I don't have many friends, and I don't have a girlfriend either, since I'm not in the right frame of mind for a relationship right now, Issei lied again, not giving it much importance, since he has no one in this world. Oh, wow, so you're technically alone, Leon said, surprised by the calmness with which Issei spoke, since many might put on a distressed face when discussing these topics. Well, yes, although I'm getting used to it, Issei said dismissively. Leon looked at it, found it interesting, but wanted to know more. And what do you usually do for a living? Leon asked. Well, I hunt dangerous beasts, I'm good at it, he replied with some truth, since on his way to the capital, he had come across countless such beasts and annihilated them all. Wow, you must be a strong person if you do that for a living, Leon said, slightly surprised. It's normal, although they are strong, I know how to manage to hunt them and get the money that helps me survive, said Issei, lying like a champion, since Azazel told him that when he was in a situation where he was interrogated, he should lie. It was difficult at first, but after a month of that, he could even lie to his dad. And modest, then, I imagine you'll enlist in the army or the police, Leon said, assuming that if he was strong and needed money, it was probably something like that. No, I won't join either of them. I'll just go out and hunt dangerous beasts and get their parts to sell. It's just me, so I don't need that much money to survive, Issei said, since he had planned to do that, as hunting those things seemed to be something someone could make a living from. It seems you like that, Leon said, looking at Issei. Well, it's what I've been doing since I was 12, so yes, I like what I do. Besides, I have to like it because it's what puts food on my table, Issei said, and she agreed with him. So the two of them spent a while talking, although that well was long, since Leon talked more than Issei, telling him several things about the capital and warning him about others, all until it was 6 p.m. They both left the bar, Leon with a big smile and a slight blush, but still conscious. "Seriously, you don't want me to come with you?" Issei asked, feeling normal, but worried about Leon, since someone might take advantage of her drunken state. "That's nice, but no thanks, I'm fine, so don't worry," she said with a cheerful and satisfied smile, having talked a lot with Issei. She found him to be a pleasant and somewhat perverted person, since she noticed him looking at her breasts from time to time, but pleasant nonetheless. "Well, if you say so, I won't say anything more, but be careful because there are a lot of bad people out there," Issei said, making Leon smile even more. "Haha, I like that you're worried, but you don't have to, I'm very strong," Leon said, flexing his left arm and showing off his muscles. "And I believe you, well, see you later probably," Issei said to the smiling Leon. "Haha, believe it, we'll meet again, Ice," she said, smiling, and Issei smiled back. "Well Leon, see you later," and with that Issei started to leave. "Sure, see you next time," she said, bidding farewell to the brunette, who calmed down and whose blush from the liquor disappeared once he was out of sight. "Wow, he's an interesting guy with a rare and captivating scent. Who are you, really, hi to Issei?" She wondered, starting her walk toward a specific place. "I have to talk to the boss about this. We might have a new member soon and it'll be fun having him around," she thought with a smile, leaving the place. Issei, for his part, went to the inn to rest, although looking at the bag of money, he noticed that it was already scarce, but he didn't worry too much. "Hey you," someone said to him, as he looked at four armed men who looked like your average gang member staring at him with a mean face. "Give us the money or we'll hurt you," he threatened, with the other three smiling arrogantly. "Ah, I hope they have money or something of value, because if not it'll break their legs," Issei thought, preparing for a small confrontation. And so ends his third day in the capital of the empire. What does the future hold for him? Only Kami knows. End 03. 04, new job. 1 week later. It has been a week since Issei arrived in this world and he has been doing many things. These include the following. He went hunting for dangerous beasts, having discovered that they possess materials that fetch a good price on the market. He had to do some research to learn about this and now he can extract some orbs worth even more. Patrolling at night, leaving several subjects who commit illicit acts in a terrible state, although not too much because I didn't want to stand out and I did it using the balance breaker in bishop form. She was seeing Leon from time to time and they spent their time talking about whatever came to mind for the blonde with the good plot. In addition to taking the time to train his Cardinal Crimson promotion form, although he can barely maintain it for any significant period of time, he still has a long way to go to fully master it. From then on, he's been waiting to see if he can find a way to get back home, which proved fruitless because he didn't know what kind of magic was used besides being terrible at magic. Now Issei was walking back from the shop where he sells the beast parts he hunts. "Well, with this I have enough for a month of extravagance," Issei said to himself, looking at the large bag filled with silver and gold coins, 70% silver and 30% gold, as well as some colored bills that are also exclusive currency of the capital, about 10,000 in bills, being all the money he collected in the week. Obviously like any normal monetary system, with banknotes ranging from 10 to 500 or 1000, varying in color. 10 equals green. 20 equals orange. 50 equals purple. 100 equals light blue. 200 equals light brown. 500 equals dark pink. 1000 equals dark green. That's how it is in my country at least. He put his money in his backpack and went to look for somewhere to eat. But then I noticed something. "Get out of here, you damn brat," yelled a man from inside what appears to be one of the army recruitment posts. Lying on the ground was a brown-haired boy with green eyes, dressed humbly and carrying a backpack. Issei was going to go and help, but he saw Leon approach him and then drag him to another place. Issei was confused but decided to go look for a restaurant. He was hungry. He arrived at the main street and walked past the main high-class stalls and then decided to go to one of those restaurants. After arriving at a decent restaurant, he ate and then looked for a way to get to training. He left the city for the southern forests for that purpose. After a few minutes he reached a clearing in that forest where there was a river crossing. Well, now it's time to increase that time limit with the new armor. You can barely handle 3 crimson blasters before it dissipates, so you have to use it more to get used to it, said Drag, and Issei agreed. Yes, it's a problem to have that form for only a short time. If I managed to master it, I could surpass Erergsen in power and perhaps even face Volley in his Imperio Juggernaut drive, Issei said, recalling the power of the two mentioned. Well, with the Bale boy who carries Regulus Nemia it might be possible, but I couldn't say with that Lucifer boy, so it's best to train to be ready for anything, said Drag and Issei nodded. Okay, here I go, Issei said seriously. He unsheathed the gauntlet and proceeded to the new chant. I will rise as the Sekiryuutei, who upholds the true essence of the king. Clinging to absolute hope and indestructible dreams as I walk the path of justice. I will become the Crimson Dragon Emperor. And I will guide you to the paradise that shines with a true crimson color. Cardinal Crimson promotion. Then the new armor appeared, shining crimson, the form he obtained after his confrontation with Sekiryuutei and which he has been training in ever since. Well, let's train, said Issei when several dangerous beasts appeared. They weren't of high rank, but they would make good punching bags. He spent his time training until late afternoon. 4 hours later, streets of the capital. It was already 6 o'clock and I was hungry, plus I wanted to take a shower. Damn, how I miss my house, the girls are there and I could bathe with them, damn wizards, Issei complained, feeling depressed. Even though he's only been away from home for a week and 2 days, he misses his parents, friends and the girls, since he's used to sleeping with them, although Zenobia pulls him out of bed almost every time, so he has to be careful. Then he saw something that caught his attention. A man, clearly a thief, running nimbly through the people still loitering in the streets. This thief was carrying an expensive-looking bag from which a few coins and bills were falling. Ah, damn thieves. Issei complained, starting to run, although he noticed that some guards he recognized from the mansion where Siesta worked were chasing the thief. Issei increased his speed and surprised more than one person, catching up to the thief in a few seconds and quickly delivering a powerful kick to his stomach that not only damaged him but also knocked him out. Everyone was amazed, even the guards who arrived shortly afterwards. Thanks for that, kid. This guy got away from us because of a lapse in attention, one of the guards said gratefully. That's right, we don't know how, but he managed to steal Miss Grundelles' purse, thank you, the second guard said gratefully. You're welcome, guys like him are incorrigible, Issei said, thinking, although not all thieves are bad, but in this world you can expect anything. Well, I'll leave you guys, I have to go eat, he said, turning around. They nodded and were about to take away the idiot who stole from their boss when someone interrupted Issei's walk. Wait. A female voice shouted. Issei stopped and looked at who was speaking to him. She was a beautiful young blonde with blue eyes, wearing high-quality clothing, a noblewoman. She arrived in a carriage, from which she got out and approached Issei with a smile. Thank you so much for stopping that scoundrel, she said, bowing slightly. Issei was surprised, as he did not expect a noble girl to bow in gratitude to someone who did not belong to her class. Oh, don't worry, I was just passing by and saw that guy running with a bag, I did what anyone would do, Issei said, scratching the back of his head. She denied it. Not everyone, unfortunately, but thank you nonetheless, she said with a smile, taking out her purse and pulling out a good sum of money, only $1,000 bills. Here, this is a thank you for stopping the thug, she said, extending the money to a bewildered Issei. I don't think I can accept that amount of money, you'd better give me a job, Issei said ironically, and she nodded. Well, seeing how you ran, I can say you're agile as well as strong. How about working as my bodyguard? She asked with a smile. Not only Issei, but also her guards were taken aback. Issei didn't know what to say. Just accept it, don't waste this opportunity, Drake told him, and Issei sighed. I accept the job, Issei said, and she nodded with a smile. That's good. By the way, my name is Arya Grundelle. What's your name? Arya asked the brunette. Issei, hi to Issei, but they call me Ice, said the brunette, and she nodded. Belai-san, come with me inside the carriage, you start now, Arya said, walking towards the carriage as Issei looked at her. But I was going to have dinner, Issei said. Then we'll have dinner at my house. For now, come with me. I need to take care of some things before I go back, okay? She said calmly, and Issei had to accept. Issei and Arya got into the carriage under the gaze of all the witnesses, some jealous that Issei was near a girl like her, others surprised by how peculiar it was that the brunette got a job, and the guards shook their heads, they were used to their peculiar boss. That's how Issei got a new job in a very peculiar way. The carriage began its journey, with Issei remaining silent throughout the entire trip. Arya looked at that and spoke up. So, where are you from, Ai-san? Arya asked, wanting to strike up a conversation with the brunette. Well, I'm from an island far to the west of this continent, Issei replied, and she nodded. Oh, so you're a foreigner, she said, surprised, since you hardly ever see people from outside the continent around here. Yes, said Issei. And what brings you to the capital? Arya asked. Well, it was pure accident, since I got lost on my way west and ended up here, so since I have no one waiting for me, I decided to stay and get a job, Issei said, and she nodded. They continued talking for a while longer, while Arya did her thing. Issei was surprised, since every time she saw a homeless person or people who needed help, she would stop the carriage and get out to help, either by giving them money or telling them that she would get them a job, which is something he didn't expect from a place like this. She returned to the carriage after giving some money to an old man who looked very needy. "Wow, you surprise me," Issei commented, looking at the blonde. "I know what you mean, but that's how we are in my family. We help those in need," Ari replied, further surprising Issei. The capital is a place full of despicable nobles. They look at people of limited means as if they were livestock to be used, so I understand your surprise at seeing me do this, she said, looking out the left window. But from the first Grundelle to me, we've been helping everyone in any way we could because we see the state of the capital, and believe me, we find it completely disgusting, she explained. Well, it's nice to meet someone who cares about people among so many rats, Issei said, smiling slightly, and Arya smiled back. Thank you, we do what we can for others, Arya said, smiling. Issei nodded, smiling. At least there are some good people among all this crap, said Drake, and Issei agreed. Issei had already relaxed them, chatting more with Arya while she continued to help. It was 8 o'clock at the time, and on their way to the Grundelle mansion, they noticed something, or rather, someone huddled in a corner. Stop. Arya said to the driver, who stopped the horses. Issei looked at her. That boy has nowhere to sleep and the inn's closed half an hour ago, poor thing, Arya said, getting out of the carriage with Issei following behind her just in case. The guards eyed, but only smiled slightly. Arya approached the boy who looked at her, although he also looked at Issei behind her. You're a stranger, aren't you? Arya asked the boy with a smile. Issei looked at him more closely and was surprised to recognize him. You're the boy who was with Leon this afternoon. Issei exclaimed in surprise as the boy stood up angrily upon hearing the blonde's name. Although Arya had a nervous tick when she heard that name. Do you know that thief? The green-eyed boy asked angrily. A thief? Did Leon steal from you? Wow, I didn't expect that, Issei said, surprised, but he barely knew the blonde, so she could be a thief. The RRRR, that stupid cow-breasted woman stole all my money. The green-eyed man yelled at the brunette, who just stared at him. A vein bulged on Arya's forehead and she looked irritated. That idiot, I told her not to be doing that, she'll see when I see her, Arya thought with great annoyance. Bad luck, man. I barely know her enough to know that's how she is. You see, some women are deceitful, Issei said, as the brown-haired man with green eyes looked at him seriously and suspiciously. What's with that look? He asked, frowning. I don't trust you, you must be her accomplice, the boy accused Issei. Ahem, Arya coughed falsely, drawing the boy's attention. Isay is my bodyguard, so he's not an accomplice to anything, she said, and the boy nodded. Anyway, if you don't have anywhere to stay, do you want to come to my house? She asked with a smile. But he earned a suspicious look from the boy. I don't have any money, the boy said with his face. That's obvious, isn't it? Otherwise you wouldn't be here on the street, Arya said with a smile. The boy had to agree and sighed. Except, she'll help you. She's been helping several people throughout the capital, Issei said, giving her a nod. The boy had no other choice. Well, I guess it's better than sleeping on the street, he said, accepting it, as Arya smiled. Then it's decided, she said, smiling and making the boy blush. Come on, we were just heading back to my house, she said, and the boy got up from the ground and picked up his things. By the way, my name is Arya Grundelle, what's your name? She asked the boy. I'm Tatsumi, Tatsumi introduced himself, and Arya nodded. Yo soy Issei Haidu, mucho gusto Tatsumi Daiho Issei con Unilever Sonrisa. Tatsumi nodded. So the three of them got into the carriage and continued on their way to Arya's house. Thus ended another day in the capital, Issei now meeting the daughter of the only worthwhile family in this dirty place called the capital of the empire, and he also met Tatsumi. Now it's just a matter of time before the Red Dragon crosses paths with the Night Raid. End 04:05, Grundelle. 10 minutes later. We've arrived, Arya said, pointing to the large gates at the main entrance of her mansion. The carriage entered the grounds and continued along the road towards the mansion, arriving in front of it after about 5 minutes. This is it, my home, the Grundelle mansion, Arya said, smiling. Whoa! Exclaimed Tatsumi, looking impressed at the large mansion. Issei, for his part, was surprised since it was the same mansion where Siesta took him. Arya got out of the carriage and looked at the two chestnut trees. Welcome to my home, Arya said with a smile. Tatsumi was still reeling from his initial astonishment, simply observing everything. Issei was just hoping to see Siesta again. It's been a week since he last saw her. At that moment a butler opens the door. Welcome back, Arya-sama, and I see you've come with someone. Please come in, Angelica-sama is waiting for you with the other two guests, said the butler with complete kindness and professionalism. Thank you, August. "Come on, guys, don't be shy," Arya said kindly. Thus August led them to the great dining room, and during the journey, which was not short, Tatsumi and Issei looked at what was inside. Tatsumi because it was his first time entering a mansion, while Issei went out of simple curiosity. There were guards in various places, maids here and there, some of whom saw the two chestnut-haired men with interest, butlers and others. Several paintings and other things that were expensive. The basic millionaire's house. So August led them to the dining room doors. Upon entering, they were greeted by several maids and servants, and there were already 3 people at the large dining table, the typical super long table which is barely used 10% of its length. 2 females and a boy the same age as Issei and Tatsumi, the latter being surprised to recognize them. "Seo, Ieyasu." Tatsumi shouted to the 2 boys who, upon recognizing him, got up from their seats and went to him. "Tatsumi." Both boys shouted, clearly happy to see him. Issei stayed on the sidelines while they reunited. "Oh, wow, so the friend they were talking about was him, what a coincidence," said the woman sitting at the table. Issei looked at her and had to say that she was absolutely beautiful. The woman is beautiful, with long blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin, and a slim yet voluptuous figure, wearing a dress that clung to her body well. A mature beauty that was pleasing to his eyes. In case you're wondering about the name, it's Haidu Marissa from. I don't really know, just Google it. "Mother, I brought these 2 young men with me, I hope you don't mind," Arya remarked to the woman, who looked at Issei with a gentle smile. "You don't have to apologize, darling, you're welcome in our home," the woman said with a smile. Issei knew it was time to introduce himself. "Good evening, my name is Haidu Issei, I thank you and Arya-san for allowing me to stay in your home for the night," said Issei, since his mother-in-law had taught him how to be polite, after all, he was now part of a high-class family. "Oh, how polite, nice to meet you Haidu-kun, my name is Angelica Grundelle, and I own this whole place, and you don't have to thank me, our family has been dedicated to helping those in need for many years," Angelica said with a smile. Issei nodded. "Even so, I feel grateful, and if you ever need anything from someone like me, don't hesitate to ask, I'll gladly do it," Issei said, since the truth was, he liked these people. They weren't like the others he'd seen this week in this place. I'll keep that in mind. For now, take a seat, dinner is already served," Angelica said, and Issei nodded. Tatsumi left his friends and introduced himself, thanking the woman who smiled and accepted his thanks. So they went to take their places, Tatsumi near his 2 friends, and Issei sat near Arya, although before sitting down he helped Arya like a true gentleman. "Wow, thank you," Arya said, impressed, because she hadn't thought Issei was so polite. "It's simple chivalry, I was taught that," said Issei, sitting down to the left of the blonde, who nodded. At that moment, several servants entered with various dishes on transport carts. Issei noticed 2 in particular, one was obviously Siesta, who hadn't even seen him, and the other was the one who led the rest and who made a great impression on Issei. "That maid isn't normal, mate," Drake told him. The maid in question was dressed like any other maid in the house. She had black hair tied in 2 braids that fell on either side, her skin was fair, she wore round glasses, a rosary hung around her neck, and she seemed very calm, but the aura around her was not normal. It denoted something of danger to a normal human. Ignore the gun and the "you're done for" look, those who know who it is, great, but those who don't, oh well. "Wow, he certainly has an imposing presence," thought the impressed chestnut-haired man. The maid served the food, and Siesta immediately noticed Issei and was very happy. "Ai-san," Siesta said, smiling. The 2 Grundelles noticed that and Angela asked. "Did you 2 know each other before?" he asked the maid, who nodded with a smile. "He was the one who saved me last week," Siesta replied, surprising the 2 blondes and the boys, while the head maid looked at Issei analytically. "Oh, so you're the savior Siesta-chan hasn't stopped talking about, it really is a small world," Arya commented, making Siesta blush deeply. "AAA Arya-sama, don't say that," said poor Siesta, blushing deeply, who looked at Issei in embarrassment. The brunette blushed because of this, since apart from Rias and the others, Siesta is the first to mention him a lot. "Yufufu, thank you for helping her. For our family, every servant and staff member is important because without them we are nothing," Angela said with a beautiful smile that captivated Issei, but he would deny it with a slight smile. "You don't have to thank me, I only did what I saw was right," Issei said, as Angela shook her head. "That might be it, but it's very rare to receive and give help in the city, and I think you know that, right?" Angela said to the brunette, who sighed and became serious. "Yes, I don't know if this will offend you, but from everything I've seen these past few days in the capital, it's a place full of rotten people who profit from the poor, and frankly, it bothers me," Issei said, surprising Tatsumi and his friends. Angela and Arya looked at each other and nodded, with Angela speaking first. Indeed, the capital is a nest of rats, wolves in sheep's clothing, pretending to be good people, whether they are poor or rich, only the strongest survive in this jungle that is the capital, especially with the emperor we have being dominated by the prime minister, Angela said with complete seriousness. Once again the trio of peasants were surprised, as they did not know that about the capital. So the rumors I heard are true, Issei said seriously. From what I've heard, the emperor is a child, and the one who controls everything from the shadows is Prime Minister Honest, he said, looking at the woman who nodded. Yes, that's right, the emperor is only 12 years old and knows nothing about what's happening outside, because the prime minister has been hiding all of that while he continues with his misdeeds, Angela said, and Issei understood. My mother knows about that because she is a member of the emperor's advisors and the empire's health minister, Arya said, sounding proud of her mother. Wow, I wasn't expecting that, Issei said. Itsumi and his two friends were silent but surprised since a bigwig had given them a place to stay. By the way. Angela looked at Tatsumi, so you're the friend Seo and Ieyasu were talking about, she said, and the brunette nodded. Yes, nice to meet you, my name is Tatsumi and I appreciate you letting me stay here. I'll find a way to repay you when I become famous in the capital, Tatsumi said with conviction in his eyes. Angela was a little surprised by that and looked at her daughter. He said he wanted to join the Imperial Army and become famous, Arya said, though I think that's the same goal as Seo and Ieyasu, she added, looking at the pair of siblings. Oh, wow, and you managed to get in as a recruit? Angela asked. Tatsumi blushed with embarrassment and became nervous. The country boy didn't know what to say until he sighed. Actually, no, I was kicked out, he said, embarrassed. And that's when you met Leon, yes, I saw how the guy who was recruiting was saying things to her, Issei mentioned, making Angela feel a contraction upon hearing the name Leon. Ah, the same thing happened to you as to Ieyasu, they thought that because they had skills they were going to get into a high position on the first try, they are idiots, said Seo while shaking her head. Hey. How was I supposed to know that wasn't possible? Tatsumi said, annoyed. Yes, and stop saying that already, it's not our fault we don't know how things work here, Ieyasu said, looking annoyed at his sister. And that's why people outside the capital are easy targets for people with bad intentions here in the capital, Arya said, looking at the trio who were looking at her. True, no offense intended, but people from the countryside think that living in the capital is a bed of roses, but that's just a facade for something worse, Angela said, sounding serious. Issei remained silent and attentive, as did the field trio. The capital, as I said before, is a place where people with very bad intentions live, Angela said. Yes, they're lucky to have met me, because others would have simply lured them in with sweet words, and heaven knows what they would have done to them, Arya said. This clearly frightened the trio of villagers, as they had not considered that possibility. And how can I be sure that you aren't the same? Issei asked without any fear. The dining room fell silent and the two blondes looked at Issei, though they didn't seem offended. Well, if there's one thing my family is proud of, it's that in all the years we've been active in the imperial capital, we've helped those in need without regard to their background or gender. We simply help them to have a better quality of life in the city, declared the blonde, who appeared calm. I told you before, didn't I? We're different from other families in this capital, not to mention the only ones that help those in need, Arya said with a smile. If you'll allow me to speak, Angela-sama and Arya-sama are right. Thanks to her, my cousin and I have a home. Furthermore, Angela-sama manages the only hospital that admits people of all social classes in this capital, said Siesta, who had been standing next to Issei the whole time. Issei remained silent but then let out a sigh. Sorry for what I said, it's just that seeing so much bad sales is driving me a little crazy, it's clear to me now that they are good people, the brunette apologized, bowing slightly. There's no need, it's good that you're distrustful, so don't apologize, Angela said with a smile. Everything calmed down and Angela spoke again. Well, enough talk, the food is getting cold and it's best to enjoy it while it's still hot, said Angela, and so the maids began to serve the food. Here you go, Ai-san, said dark-haired Siesta, pouring some wine into a glass for the chestnut-haired man. Issei smiled at him. Thank you Siesta, she said, taking the glass. Dinner passed calmly, with Tatsumi seemingly crying tears of joy at eating something delicious, while Issei had to say that whoever cooked was an expert. After 20 minutes they finished dinner, or at least Issei and Tatsumi did, since they almost ate all the food that was put on the table. They do have an appetite, Arya said, surprised. I've never tasted anything so delicious in my life, Tatsumi said sincerely. Well, I train a lot and my body absorbs 4 times the protein of a normal person, that's why I usually eat a lot, said Issei, who has recently felt very hungry and deserves it for being part dragon and part demon. It's not a problem, that way we don't waste so much food, but well, it's getting late and I have to go to the hospital early to take care of some things, so I'm going back to my room, have a good night, Angela said politely as she left, followed by the maid with braids and glasses, who gave Issei one last look before leaving with her boss. That's right, I have to accompany mom tomorrow, since I work there, Arya said, looking at August the butler. August, could you show Ai-san and Tatsumi-san their quarters? She asked, and the butler nodded. As you wish, Arya-sama, I'll take care of it, August said calmly. Thank you, Arya said with a smile, looking at the three boys and the girl. I'll say goodbye for today, see you tomorrow, have a good night, guys, she said, leaving with Siesta, who waved goodbye to Issei with a smile. The four of them stayed there. Well. Issei looked at the black-haired brothers and approached. Nice to meet you, I'm Issei Haidu, but you can call me Ice, he said, smiling as he extended his hand to greet them. I am Ieyasu and this is my younger sister Seo, a pleasure Ice, said Ieyasu with a big friendly smile. Nice to meet you, Ice, Seo said with a slight smile. Likewise, Seo, Ieyasu, I hope we get along well while we're here, Issei said, smiling. Then Tatsumi speaks. So you know the girl who robbed me, right? Tatsumi asked, still angry with Leon for stealing all his money. Yes, and I reiterate that I know nothing about any robbery, as I went out to hunt dangerous beasts, said Issei, washing his hands, as he had nothing to do with it. I believe you, you don't look like a thief, Tatsumi said after looking Issei over. Well, nice to meet you too, I hope we get along well while we work for Arya-san, he declared, smiling, to which Issei returned the smile. I agree, Tatsumi. I hope we get along, Issei said, because having a friend in this world would be good. The four chatted a little, but not much since Tatsumi was very sleepy and what happened to him in the afternoon had mentally tired him out. Issei was guided by Siesta to what will be his new room while he is working for Arya. Good evening, Ai-san, Siesta said with a smile. Likewise Siesta, have a good night, see you tomorrow, Issei said, smiling at the dark-haired girl. She smiled and left, as she had homework to finish before she could rest. Issei closed the door and looked at the room, not at all surprised because when he goes to visit his in-laws, he already has a room that he shares with Rias and the girls, and it is more elegant than that one. He lay down on the bed and, staring at the ceiling, thought. I hope someone comes looking for me, but first I'll have to find a way to help in this shitty city, he thought, remembering how rotten this world was, recalling stories about the deep web that were true since Azazel had confirmed them to him. Issei sighed and closed his eyes, ready to sleep, since tomorrow would be another day. End 05:06 Roberta an encounter. The next day Grundelle Manor. It was approximately 4 a.m. and Issei was already awake, leaving his room and greeting some employees who were already awake. I went down to the mansion's lobby, finding the butler August walking to a place. Oh, good morning, young Haidu, August greeted politely. Good morning to you too, August-san, Issei greeted. One question, is there anywhere I can train? I usually do that every day, he said, explaining that thanks to Rias, he had made it a habit to train early in the morning for at least 2 hours. Yes, that would be the training ground behind the mansion. There's equipment there for the family's guards and soldiers to train, August explained, and Issei understood. Oh, thank you, then I'll be going, said Issei, leaving the mansion, as it was easier to run outside. I'll let you know when breakfast is ready, August said. Thank you in advance, Issei said, leaving and heading back towards the mansion. Issei ran quickly, surprising several guards who were already heading to the houses they had on the grounds because you didn't always see someone running so fast in the mornings. The mansion measured 250 square meters, making it a large place. Issei usually runs 30 kilometers a day and increases it as he gets used to it, sometimes he does it with weight on top because being strong was a matter of dedication. He then arrived at the back where he saw some guards training. As he walked closer to the place, some guards looked at him. Issei noticed that there were men and women, all dressed in clothing suitable for training. Issei approached some weights and picked them up, but they were too light, so he went for the bar and put 200 kilos on each side. He began his training, surprising some guards with the weight Issei lifted with ease. Issei, for his part, did 200 repetitions to put the weight aside, stood up, and decided to do the basic exercises. He did 200 sit-ups, squats, and push-ups, all in 18 minutes. Then he started running the 30 kilometers he had to do. All of this was witnessed by the astonished guards, who could barely perform normal exercises to stay in shape. Issei, for his part, ran and ran, ignoring everything around him, since he would try to do more exercise later. Although he unintentionally ended up moving away from the mansion, venturing into a hill that was behind it. It was a hill with many trees located about 80 meters from the mansion. Issei ran deeper into the small forest, reaching a clearing on the other side of the hill where a sound caught his attention. It was the sound of knocking on wood, but not just any kind of knocking. They were punches against wood. How does he know? Well, he's seen Heir knock down thick trees with ease. I walked towards the sound and was surprised to see who it was. There she was, Roberta, the headmaid of the Grundelle house. She had her hair loose, reaching down to her waist, wearing a sports bra that accentuated her not-so-small breasts, lycra pants that clung to her legs and buttocks, and black gloves on her hands. She looked intently punching the tree in front of her, while Issei looked at the deep fist marks on that and other nearby trees. She's strong, he thought in surprise, but she gave him that impression after seeing her for the first time, because her gaze was not that of a normal maid. "Get out of there once and for all," said Roberta's cold, serious voice, snapping Issei out of his reverie. "Excuse me, it's just me," Issei said, stepping out with his hands raised. Roberta was surprised to see him, as she had barely noticed him. "Oh, it's you, what do you want?" she asked calmly, although she was still alert for anything. "Nothing, I just ended up here without realizing it, I was training," Issei said sincerely, approaching until he was about 6 meters away from her, who did not take her eyes off him. "I see you train too," he said, referring to the trees. She said nothing and just looked at him seriously. Issei felt uncomfortable under her gaze, which made it difficult for him to speak to her. You know, I have no intention of harming your boss and her daughter if that's what you suspect," he said seriously. Roberta looked at him seriously. "How do I know you're not lying?" Roberta asked, because she was very suspicious of Issei. "Well, because they haven't done anything wrong to me or anyone else. I know they're telling the truth when they talk about their family history. Besides, I was with Rias and the whole time before I came back to the mansion, and I saw how she was helping the poor people on the south side of town," Issei said calmly, looking at the maid. "I know I might seem suspicious, but believe me when I say I don't plan on hurting anyone who doesn't deserve it. And believe me, I've seen a lot in the short time I've been in this shitty city," he said seriously, remembering some of the guys he'd killed before. Roberta looked into the eyes of the brunette, he held her gaze seriously, after a few minutes she sighed and relaxed a little. "I hope what you say is true, because if it isn't, I'll make you suffer a lot," Roberta said with a death glare that intimidated Issei a little. "Rest assured that I will do nothing against the Grundelle family, I swear on my dragon pride," Issei said without thinking about what he said, leaving Roberta very confused when she heard him say that. "Dragon pride?" she asked, confused. "Dude, you screwed up," Drake thought to himself. Wait, Issei recalculated what he said and opened his eyes wide. "Shit." He looked at Roberta, who seemed very confused by what he said. "Forget what I said, I just won't hurt the Grundelle family," he said nervously. Roberta looked at him seriously, but then sighed and put that aside. She would find out later. "So, what are you doing here?" She forgot what Issei had said. "Oh, nothing really, I just ended up here after doing my daily 30 kilometers and I heard something coming from this direction and I found you hitting the poor tree," Issei revealed, slightly surprising Roberta with how fast Issei runs. "Oh, I see," she said, not giving it much thought. Issei looked at Roberta's body, more specifically her physique, as she had muscles suited to her figure, something rare coming from a servant. "You're not just a maid, are you?" Issei asked, looking at the woman who looked at him. "I'm the head maid of the Grundelle family, that's all you need to know," she said seriously, since she had no reason to tell Issei anything. "I understand," Issei said, looking at the tree Roberta was hitting. "But you're strong. I imagine you take care of Angela-san," he said, looking at her again. "The lady has highly qualified bodyguards, I am just nearby for any need she may have," she said seriously. Seeing that he wasn't getting anywhere and things were getting awkward, Issei decided to leave her alone. He thought he could talk to her more openly later, since Roberta was interesting. "Well, I'll leave you now, I have to continue with my training," Issei said, turning around and unconsciously starting to run at high speed. Roberta saw the speed with which Issei ran. He was fast, and something told her that this was only the true nature of that strange boy that the lady had brought. He would have to keep an eye on him just in case, but for now he continued with his training, giving the tree a powerful punch. Proc. And the tree succumbed to the blow, falling to the ground. Obviously, Roberta was not a normal maid. Time later, dining room. The hours had passed and both the owners of the house and the new guests were awake, already gathered in the dining room for a good breakfast. Good breakfast, the day I'm writing this, I had American ramen from that pouch and 2 boiled eggs with a soda. "Okay, what are your plans for today?" Issei asked, because he didn't really know what they were going to do. "Well, I have to go to the hospital with Mom," Arya said, and Angela nodded. "I imagine they'll need bodyguards," Tatsumi said. "Yes, so the 3 of you will come with us," Angela said, looking at Tatsumi, Seo, and Ieyasu. "And me?" Issei asked, since he didn't have much to do. Well, for today I wouldn't know what to let you do, you can do whatever you want while you wait for orders, Angela said with a smile. Issei didn't understand anything, but at least he could go look for dangerous beasts and train more with his Cardinal Crimson. Well, if you need anything, you can find me west of the capital, Issei said, confusing those present. What will you do there? Tatsumi asked, confused. Well, I'm going to hunt dangerous beasts, Issei said, surprising the trio outside. Is this some kind of training? Arya asked. Something like that, Issei said, as he could tell us that he would train his second form of balance breaker. Well, we'll let you know when we need you, Angela said calmly. So breakfast began and after it was over, everyone went to do their chores, with Issei leaving the Grundelle family grounds to go west as he said. During his journey he punched several idiots, prevented some grapes in broad daylight, and killed some kidnappers who wanted to take some children. Thus they reached the forests west of the outskirts of the empire. Okay, now let's see what I find around here, he said, looking around. He was deep in the forest, wanting to practice using the dangerous beasts of the place. Greg, does this count as animal abuse? Issei asked, thinking about the beasts. Not if they attack you first, said Dreg. Then a pack of 15 beasts approached, resembling lions but with black fur and horns on their heads, red eyes, and measuring about 5 meters tall. The beasts surrounded Issei, eyeing him cautiously, for they were not stupid. They sensed the brown-haired man as a powerful being. The largest of the pack lunged at Issei, but the chestnut-haired boy dodged the swipe and then, using Ascalon, cleanly cut off its head. The body fell, spraying blood onto the ground. Seeing that, the creatures became more cautious. Come on, don't be cowards and attack, Issei said, challenging the beasts. As if they understood, they became more ferocious and attacked together to see if they could defeat the enemy in front of them. Issei smiled and got ready. The beasts attacked with claws or their jaws, but Issei was faster and cut them down quickly. The alpha looked at that in surprise, for he did not expect them to go from being the hunters to the prey, for their enemy was more than they could handle. The chestnut tree quickly finished off the beasts, leaving a brutal scene with bodies cut to pieces or without heads. This was easy, Issei said, looking at the corpses on the ground. He approached them and opened them up to remove the parts that could be sold. From the tusks to the skin, he also took out the meat so he could have something to eat. The process was quick. He learned to do that quickly since it came in the survival pack that Tannen gave him in his territory. Once ready, I summoned a cooler from my dimensional space and put in the meat and organs that were to be sold or eaten, while I kept the rest of the things separately. I was about to leave, but then. Goosh boom. A pink flash and then a loud explosion, it all happened fast. Several meters away, on a cliff, a girl with pink hair and a white dress, holding a peculiar weapon, stood up and smiled contentedly. Okay, it wasn't a big deal, the girl said, looking behind her at 3 individuals. Well, it's best if we leave, the alert was for nothing, said the blonde, who is Leon, in a lazy manner. Wait, said a boy with green hair and green clothes, while holding some green threads in his left hand. What's wrong, Lubbock? Leon asked the boy, who was serious. He's not dead yet and. Lubbock opened his eyes in surprise. He's heading this way at great speed. He shouted, and just as the 3 girls were about to speak, a red suit of armor arrived, looking at the 4 of them. Shit, he said nervously. Issei in balance breaker looked at the 4 of them, he was surprised to see Leon, but he had to use Ascalon to stop the blow of a katana held by a beautiful black-haired woman with red eyes and a black outfit. You must be eliminated, said the dark-haired woman with an expressionless face. Issei said nothing and began to block the girl's attacks. His training with Kiba yielded many results. At that moment he had to jump back, dodging Leon, who apparently obtained a new form, as both arms looked more animalistic, he had ears on his hair and a yellow tail. I don't know who you are, but you've come to the wrong place, Leon said seriously. Issei sighed. The last thing he wanted was trouble, but apparently not everything was like that. He had to move again to avoid a pink beam that shot from the pink-haired woman's weapon, who frowned at her miss. Although he had no time to rest when Leon attacked him ferociously, she threw punches and kicks that he easily blocked, as her strength was inferior to Sekiryuutei's, who had knocked off his armor with a single blow. He quickly blocked the dark-haired woman's katana and counterattacked, delivering a powerful blow to Leon's abdomen that knocked the wind out of her and made her spit saliva before crashing into a tree. He quickly left the dark-haired girl and went after the pink-haired girl, since she was the second problem, but he didn't count on a green mesh that stopped him. Don't think you'll hurt them anymore, Lubbock said, using the threads to attack. He quickly moved his fingers and created a spear with his threads, which he aimed at Issei. The chestnut-haired man dodged the spear and, grabbing the strings, roughly pulled Lubbock towards him to knock him out with one blow. But that done, he went to where the pink-haired girl pointed her weapon, and a powerful pink beam consumed him. Ah, you're not that strong. she said confidently as she watched Issei being consumed by the lightning, but then an armored hand snatched her weapon away. What the she exclaimed, but couldn't continue cursing when Issei used some of his taki to strike her on the head, knocking her unconscious. The three out, he was left only with a dark-haired woman who looked at him cautiously. "You know, I'm not doing this because I want to, but you guys started for no reason at all," Issei said, looking at the dark-haired girl who frowned. "You're invading our territory," she said, ready to attack. "Territory? What are you talking about? I only came here to hunt dangerous beasts," Issei said, confused, but he had to block the girl's sword strike. "Calm down, damn it," he yelled, annoyed at being attacked. She didn't listen and only attacked Issei, who became even more upset. After a few more exchanges, the chestnut-haired man grew tired and quickly positioned himself behind the dark-haired woman to deliver a powerful blow to the back of her neck, which knocked her unconscious. He caught her before she got hurt and gently placed her on the ground. "Ah, how troublesome," he complained, looking at his four unconscious attackers. "What do I do now?" he wondered, scratching the back of his neck. "Well, I really have no idea," said Dreg. "Ah, I'd better wait until someone wakes up before we talk," Issei said, annoyed. Being in this world, his personality has gradually changed because seeing horrible things changes anyone. "It won't be necessary," said Leon's pained voice as she recovered from the blow Issei had given her. "Wow, you sure hit hard," she said with an amused smile, but winced in pain. "But I didn't expect you to be that guy who was causing trouble recently, Ice-kun," she said, looking at him. "Ah, anyway, they're night raid, right?" I asked, and she nodded. "How did you find out?" she asked. "That's the famous Akame," he pointed to the girl in question, who was unconscious. "It was easy, really," he said dismissively. Leon sighed and looked at Issei. "Tell me, Ice-kun, do you want to come with us?" she asked hopefully, because Issei could be a great help. Issei thought about it. If he joined Night Ride he could get into a lot of trouble, but on the other hand, he was intrigued by how they worked because according to some, they only kill corrupt nobles or people who are the scum of the capital. "Go with her, it could be interesting," said Dreg, and Issei looked at Leon, who was looking at him expectantly. "Sure, why not?" Issei said, and she smiled. "Okay, now help me with them, because I can't carry them all by myself," Leon said, carefully taking the pink-haired girl with pigtails and her weapon and then picking up Lubbock like a sack of potatoes. Issei carefully picked up Akame, but first he sheathed that katana that gave him a bad feeling. With that, the chestnut-haired man followed Leon towards the Night Ride base. Thus Issei had his encounter with a group of assassins, even though it wasn't in the best way, but an encounter nonetheless. End 0607 talk. Moments later. "You really surprised me, I didn't expect that the guy who was causing terror in the capital was you, Ice-kun," Leon said, speaking to Issei. "I didn't think you were part of the #1 enemy assassin group of the Empire," Issei said sincerely, "because I didn't expect that." "Haha, what can I say?" Issei said, making Leon smile. They both walked until they reached the front of the Night Ride headquarters. "Now then, welcome to the base," Leon said proudly as she pointed to the base. Issei looked at the base and had a drop of sweat behind his head. "For a secret base, it's very visible," said the chestnut-haired man, looking at Leon. "Don't worry about it, besides, nobody goes that far because of the dangerous beasts in the surrounding area," Leon said nonchalantly, making Issei sigh. The two arrived at the main entrance, a huge wrought iron gate. Clank 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 clank. "Hey, come open up now," Leon shouted as he banged on the door with his free hand. A few minutes passed and the crack in the door opened, revealing purple eyes that looked at Leon but stared seriously at Issei. Then the crack closed and several mechanisms were heard as the door opened. Greeting them was a beautiful dark-haired woman with white skin, purple eyes, and a mole under her left eye. Her clothing was more than tempting, as it left an opening in the area of her breasts, her hips, and if you look at her from behind, her entire back, revealing the beginning of her buttocks. "Hello Mara, this is Issei and he's a new recruit," Leon said to the woman who looked seriously at Issei. Issei looked at her, their eyes met, purple with brown. Issei was impassive and she would be. "Give it to me," Mara said, pointing at Akame. Issei was confused but shrugged, handing Akame over, while Mara carefully took her and quickly went inside the base. At that moment, Issei felt a pat on his shoulder. "Don't feel bad, she just worries a lot about Akame, but she's a nice girl once you get to know her better," Leon said, and Issei just accepted that. "Well, come on, I'll take you to the main hall, and you wait for me there. I have to take these two to their rooms." And with that, she led Issei inside. They walked a little way and arrived at the main room where there was a table. There, seated in one of the chairs, was a beautiful young woman with violet hair, glasses, and a lavender-colored Chinese chiasgam, possessing a good figure that Issei compared to Zenovia's. "Oh, Leon, welcome," the girl greeted in a soft, very pretty voice. She looked at Issei, confused, and then at Lubbock and Mine, who were unconscious. Who is he and what happened to them? She asked Leon, who smiled. Well, he's Issei and he'll be our newest member, and well, let's just say Issei beat them, including Akame, Leon said, surprising the girl who looked at Issei. Wow, you must be strong, she said, smiling. Nice to meet you, my name is Shiel, nice to meet you Issei-kun, she greeted, and Issei smiled. Likewise, Shiel-san, said the chestnut-haired man. Well, I'll leave you two to get to know each other. I'm going to take these two to their room and then go to the boss to introduce Issei, Leon said, leaving with the two unconscious people. That left Issei with Shiel. Issei didn't know what to say, and neither did Shiel. Issei didn't know what to say. Why did you decide to join Night Ride? Shiel asked curiously. Oh, well, since I've been in the capital of the Empire, I've seen all the garbage they hide behind a mask of utter hypocrisy. Seeing people executed in a square where everyone can watch them suffer until death is outrageous, especially when they were possibly innocent people, Issei said with a serious face, and his voice was full of venom. Shiel was surprised because few people expressed themselves that way. So when I heard about Night Ride and that their targets were people loyal to the Empire, in addition to committing serious crimes that were simply covered up, it made me decide to join, Issei said, lying. Yes, he had heard about Night Ride and everything they did, but he joined because he was bored of working alone and wanted to see the skills of the team of professional assassins that turned the Empire upside down. Oh, well, what can you do or what have you been doing all this time? Shiel asked, interested. Well, I've been hunting A-level dangerous beasts and working as an escort, plus I've killed a few guys since I came here, Issei said, surprising Shiel. What kind of people have you killed? She asked, hoping they weren't innocent people. Stupid nobles who think that because they have money they can use the poor for their own convenience, Issei replied seriously. Rapists, murderers, cannibals, sadists, and all sorts of other idiots in such a short time, all of them were sent to Tartarus by the edge of my sword. His gaze was cold, for in a short time he had seen things that had changed him. She looked into that gaze. It was the gaze of someone who hadn't expected to see something like that, the gaze of someone forced to change. She didn't quite understand that, but she hoped it wouldn't harm her in the future. Issei calmed down and then smiled at Shiel. He met Leon the first day I arrived in the capital. He tried to scam me, but I didn't let him. She may be beautiful and all, but she needs more than that to steal from me, the brunette said when someone stood behind him. So you knew what I wanted to do, huh? Leon hugged the brunette around the neck, placing his head between her enormous breasts, although Issei was already used to the situation, so he didn't blush or flinch. Yeah, you think that because he came from outside the capital he was stupid? Hahaha, what a basic way of thinking you have, believe me I've seen country people smarter than those from the capital, said Issei, remembering a guy from a village who scammed a nobleman in an epic way, and the guy didn't even notice. Well, that may be true, but many people only think of this place as a gateway to wealth, Leon said, letting go of Issei and sitting down in the chair next to him. Well, you're right about that, I know people like that, Issei said, remembering Tatsumi and his friends who must be escorting Arya at this moment. So, you'll talk to the boss so she'll accept it, Shiel said, looking at Leon, who smiled and put her arms around Issei's shoulders, pressing him against her chest. Yes, he's that red-armored guy who's been stealing our jobs for the past week. He's very strong, and we need that in our group, the blonde said, praising the brunette who was simply enjoying Leon's soft breasts. Oh, that's surprising, I didn't expect Issei-san to be that guy in red armor, Shiel said, pleasantly surprised, looking at the brunette. Then someone arrived. Oh? Who's the Leon boy? Asked a tall, muscular man with a distinctive pompadour that suited him well. Is he Jiru's grandson? The chestnut-haired man thought, remembering a certain drunken old man who was the master of knockouts. Oh, Bullied, this is Issei and he'll be our game member, Leon said, smiling. Bullied looked at Issei as if analyzing him, then nodded. Well, nice to meet you, I'm Bullied, I hope we can work together from now on, said the dark-haired man, smiling and approaching to shake Issei's hand, who accepted the greeting. The pleasure is all mine, I hope we get along well, Issei said calmly. Careful, he's gay, Leon said, waiting to see Issei's reaction. So what? I have some gay friends, Issei said, remembering a certain contractor who wanted to be a magical girl, but had a 100% JoJo's body. Well, I wasn't expecting that one, Leon said, looking at Bullied. By the way, where's the boss? He asked. Oh, she's in her office looking at some messages that came in from our allies in the capital, Bullied said. Okay, Ice, come on, I'll introduce you to the boss, said Leon, taking the brunette's arm, who let her since he liked feeling Leon's enormous breasts. Well, see you later, friends, Issei said, bidding farewell to Bullied and Shiel. Sure, see you later, Bullied said, smiling amicably. See you later, Issei-kun, Shiel said, smiling gently. Thus the blonde took Issei to the third floor of the place, leading him through the corridors until they stood in front of a door where Leon had the decency to knock. "Come in," came the mature female voice from the other side. Leon opened the door with a smile and without letting go of Issei. "Oh Leon, you're back and accompanied by what I see," said the boss of Night Ride, a beautiful woman with short white hair and fair skin, as well as a good body with large breasts, wearing a low-cut black suit. The most striking thing was the enormous metallic and green right arm, along with a patch on the right eye, but that does not diminish her beauty. "Yes, boss, you see, this is Ice, a friend of mine who turned out to be the guy who took our jobs last week," Leon said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. The woman looked at Leon and then at Issei. Issei looked at her calmly, and she looked at him analytically. "Do you seriously want me to believe that he's the man in the red armor who was eliminating our targets last week?" the skeptical woman asked. "If you'll allow me to speak," Issei said, drawing the woman's attention. "She's telling the truth. I've been killing all those bastards who used the poor as they pleased," he said seriously, recalling all the things he had seen. Great memories of Vietnam," said Drake, making Issei almost fall over. The woman looked into the brunette's eyes, searching for any lie, but it seemed that would be impossible because Issei didn't seem to lie. "Okay, let's say I believe you. Do you have a way to prove it?" the woman asked. "Yes, this," Issei said, summoning the boosted gear, surprising the two women. "Wow, how did you do that?" Leon asked, surprised. The woman looked at the gauntlet in surprise, for it had appeared out of nowhere, as if it had materialized. "Is that a Tigu?" Najenda asked, looking surprised at the chestnut-haired man. It was the first time she'd seen that Tigu, since it wasn't even described in the books. It's such a pain to write the woman when they already know who it is. "No, this is more powerful than a Tigu," Issei said, confusing the two women. "Stronger than a Tigu?" Leon asked. Najenda didn't believe it, since the most powerful Tigu is supposed to be the one they have in the Emperor's castle, as it is only usable by those who govern. "Yeah, well, you won't believe me and you'll think I'm crazy, but I'm not from here," Issei said, startling the women. "Obviously, right. You're from the west," Leon said, remembering what Issei had told her. "No, that's a lie, I'm not from the north, south, east or west, I'm not even from this continent," Issei said, surprising Leon. "So where are you from?" Najenda asked, not understanding anything. "I can explain that to you," said Drake, surprising the women. The Tigu spoke. Leon shouted in surprise, pointing at the gauntlet. "Of course I'm going to talk, brat, that's what I have a mouth for. Besides, this artifact that contains my soul isn't what they call a Tigu. This was created by a god and is called a sacred gear," said Drake, unnerving both women. "Created by a god, you say?" Najenda said, surprised and confused. It was hard to believe. "Believe it or not, and not from Ripley," said Drake. "Yes, it may be hard to believe in this world, but in mine it's normal," said Issei, which made Najenda look at him. "A world? You mean you're from another world?" Najenda asked incredulously. "You're taking it easy, brat, but yes, my partner and I are from a different world than this one, where supernatural beings exist," said Drake. Leon and Najenda didn't know what to say. It might seem silly if Issei told them himself, but since Drake spoke, it was more plausible, as there wasn't a single Tigu that carried the soul of a being within it. Tyrant is still alive inside Incursio and doesn't count as a sealed being. It's a technologically advanced world, since there are weapons capable of wiping out entire cities along with their inhabitants, although it's relatively peaceful. There are monsters in human form, although the supernatural world is not exempt from types equal to or worse than those here, Issei mentioned, remembering Risavam's sick old lesbian. "I understand, so what exactly are you?" Najenda asked, looking at Issei, who sighed and extended two pairs of wings, one pair being bat wings that came out from his waist area, and the other pair being dragon wings that came out from his back. The two women were so amazed that Najenda dropped the cigarette she had in her mouth. "I'm half demon and half dragon, well, part dragon, but I'm mostly part dragon, so I'm not human," Issei revealed, and they understood. "Well, that's great, I think," Leon said, unsure what to say. Najenda, for her part, considered the possibilities, and if Issei was telling the truth, he could be of great help to them. "Well," Najenda said, letting out a sigh and looking seriously at Issei, "we accept you into the group. It seems you can be of great help to us, so from now on you're part of Night Ride," she said, and Issei nodded. "Of course, I promise to help you on this path to cleanse this rotten place called the capital of that filthy shit," Issei said, and Najenda smiled slightly. They shook hands, signing the alliance. "Great," Leon said, grabbing Issei by the shoulders with a smile. "Now that you're part of us, I'll take you to your room, so come on," she said, dragging Issei along, who led her. "Take him to the main hall when Akame, Lubbock, and mine are awake. I'll gather the others to introduce Issei as a new member," Najenda said to Leon, who smiled and gave a thumbs up. Okay, and so she took Issei away, leaving Negenda alone, who lit another cigarette. She looked at the ceiling of her office and let the smoke out of her lungs. So, another world, huh? What's it like to live in another world? She wondered, but shook her head. Something told her that Issei's world had many problems. But he usually lives in a less rotten environment than the capital, she thought. That was an advantage, because she, like many others, wanted a peaceful life. Now that Issei was a member of Night Ride, what adventures await the Sekiryuutei? Only I, the author, will see what happens XD. End 07:08 Getting to know each other among colleagues. Half an hour later. Main hall. Some time later, the trio that was defeated by Issei was awake and gathered together with the others in the hall where they normally meet. So it was true that boy will be our new partner, Mara said, sitting next to Akame on one of the armchairs. What? Are you serious? Mine shouted, incredulous and annoyed. Exactly, he is more than qualified to be part of our team, declared Negenda, seated in a chair that resembled a throne. He defeated all three of us, he's strong, Akame said calmly, admitting that Issei was strong and won fair and square. True, although it's good that he didn't do anything to us, others would have killed us or worse, Lubbock said seriously, because no matter how much he wanted to deny it, Issei was superior. I'm still surprised at how he beat them. I mean, Akame is an expert in combat, mine with her Tigu could have eliminated him from afar and still failed, plus Crosstail isn't a weak Tigu, and Lubbock is an expert with it, so I'm surprised he survived, especially with Leon there, Bullied said, arms crossed. That's why I admitted him to the group, and we'll also soon have a new member recommended by our contacts in the capital, Negenda said, surprising everyone. He didn't accept it. He must be tricking us to attack us from behind. Mine shouted angrily, because losing to Issei was humiliating. I may be a pervert and love big breasts, but I'd never be so low as to attack from behind, Issei said in a serious tone as he approached Leon. Was what everyone said, while Mara glared at him. Did you seriously just openly declare that you're a pervert who loves big breasts? Lubbock asked, unsure how to react. Yes, that's who I am and that's how I love myself. I'm also honest about my tastes, and denying them is denying myself, Issei said, now close to the group. Although that sounds kind of cool, that coolness is lost when the topic is being a pervert, Leon mentioned, taking a seat between Sheil and mine, the latter of whom looked at him with a frown. Great, Lubbock was enough without another pervert coming to mess things up, mine declared with some displeasure. Hey. Lubbock shouted angrily. I couldn't care less what you think, I'm used to girls despising me for being a pervert, nothing hurts me anymore, Issei said with a certain indifference, since he has girls who love that about him. Nobody said anything about that. As I called you here, Negenda said, drawing everyone's attention. As you can see, he's the new member, so please introduce yourself, she said to the brunette, who stepped forward and bowed slightly. Nice to meet you all, my name is Issei. I'm 17 years old in case you're wondering, I like big breasts, although I'm not that selective with girls, as long as they like me I'm happy, I come from the West, and like you I detest the injustices committed by the Empire, and I want to help clean up that place of the crap that lives there, said Issei, and everyone nodded, although mine and Mara gave him a dirty look. Well, you already know everyone except for those you defeated, Negenda said. Issei looked down and before he could speak, he bowed. I apologize for attacking, but you must understand that you attacked first, and I'm not stupid enough not to defend myself, Issei said. Don't worry, we would have done the same as you in that situation, Akame said calmly. By the way, I'm Akame, nice to meet you, she said, smiling, and Issei nodded. What does it matter, with him here things could be better, by the way, I'm Lubbock, nice to meet you, said Lubbock with a friendly smile, and Issei smiled. I won't accept it. Mine shouted, standing up and glaring at Issei before pointing at him. We know nothing about him, he was supposed to be a spy for the Empire. That's why I won't accept it. Without another word, she left the room, leaving everyone in silence. Leave her alone, she'll get over it. That's just how she is with strangers. Besides, it seems like she's got it in for you after you beat her, Leon said calmly, patting the spot mine had left. Furthermore, sit here, she said, and Issei just sat down. Well, since everyone has introduced themselves, it would be impolite of me not to, Mara said elegantly. I am Married Orgberg, leader of the Orgberg assassin clan. I hope you're not what mine said, because we'll have a lot of problems, she said, looking at the brunette very seriously. Issei simply nodded in agreement. Well, we would introduce you to the other members, but they are currently out of the capital on assignments for the Revolutionary Army. You'll meet them later, Negenda said, and Issei nodded again. Well, that concludes this introduction. You can go get your things and settle into the room Leon provided. We're counting on you, Issei, she said, getting up and leaving. Well, Akame and I have some things to do, we'll leave you now, said Married, taking Akame's hand, who nodded in farewell. Issei watched them leave, confused. Leon, Issei whispered to the blonde. She heard him say. Are they a couple? Issei asked curiously. Well, sort of. They were already together when I met them and they share a room even though Akame has her own. What? Disappointed, perhaps. Leon said, adding a mocking tone at the end. Not at all, I simply asked to understand the situation, Issei said calmly. He'd be lying if he said he wasn't somewhat disappointed, but he wasn't in this world looking for women. He would help in any way he could before someone took him back home. Oh, well then tell me, what do you want to do? I imagine you'll go and get your things from the inn, said Leon. Yes, I have to go now to organize the few things I have in my room, Issei said. Okay, come on, I'll go with you, said Leon, standing up. Of course, Issei said. Before leaving, Bullied stopped them. Tell me, Haidu, do you ever want to train? He asked, as he was interested in the type of training Issei did and wanted to see if he was good in combat. Sure, but it will have to be tomorrow since I usually get up at 4 to train, Issei said, surprising most of them. So early? Lubbock asked in surprise, because at that hour he was well wrapped up in the sheets of his bed. Yes, it was difficult at first, but now I'm used to it, said Issei, remembering the first times Rias woke him up early. Now it was he who woke her up. You really are dedicated, Sheil said. I have to, because where I come from there's always someone who wants to mess things up and we have to take care of that, Issei said, remembering the problems with the Chaos Brigade. Are you a soldier or something? Bullied asked, since he was a member of the Imperial Army. Something like that, said Issei, since he was more or less like a soldier. After exchanging a few more words, Issei and Leon left for the capital. Moments later. The two were walking through the streets of one of the poor neighborhoods of the capital, which was where they met Leon. So you grew up here, Issei said, looking at the place full of people with obviously limited resources. Yes, it was difficult, but I managed to get through it and thanks to my experience here, I'm good at scamming people, Leon said, smiling as Issei sighed. Issei watched as several people greeted Leon with a smile and she returned the greeting with her own smile. Despite being murderers, they have a heart and a good one at that, Issei thought, smiling slightly. Sometimes the road to peace can be paved with blood and here your only option is that or let the government continue doing as it pleases, Drake said, and Issei understood what he meant. Then. Leon, stop right there and pay me what you owe me. Shouted a man who seemed annoyed. Then another one came out shouting that she scammed him, another that she robbed him, and so 15 people gathered. Are you serious? Issei said, staring at the blonde with a poker face, who smiled nervously. Haha, what can I say, I just see the opportunity and take it, Leon said, starting to run. Let's get out of here. She shouted and Issei started running, since he didn't want to grab any of the cake. The two ran through streets and alleys, moving away from that area, and then Issei got lost halfway there. Okay, so where the hell am I now? Issei wondered, scratching his head. I walked for a while to find the main street, then I saw some men kicking a woman who looked emaciated and was wearing rags, who was covering some children. Issei frowned and approached the guys who were wearing expensive clothes according to this world. Hey, you bunch of idiots. Leave the woman alone before she beats you to a pulp. Issei said seriously. The three of them stopped and looked at Issei, the one who seemed to be the leader frowning. What the hell do you want here, idiot? You better get out of here before we kick your ass, said the guy with blonde hair and tanned skin. Yes, you better get out of here, you piece of shit. Shouted the second one, who had black hair and light skin. Issei frowned deeply. They screwed up, said Drake, and Issei moved forward without fear of success. The leader glared at Issei. Didn't you hear, you idiot? Get out of here before he didn't finish because he received a punch that made him kneel and blew or vomit whatever he had in his stomach plus blood. The other two guys got scared by that. I told you once and I don't like to repeat things, Issei said as he approached the second, who tried to back away, but Issei jumped, delivering a tremendous knee strike that broke his nose, split his lips, and shattered his front teeth. The guy fell backwards unconscious with his face all messed up and bleeding profusely. Ah. Get away, you bastard. I'm the son of a famous merchant and they're the sons of wealthy people. So leave before. Issei kicked him in the knee, twisting his leg badly. You damn bastard. It hurts, it hurts. He screamed, clutching his knee as he lay on the ground. Shut up, bitch, Issei said, kicking him in the head that knocked him out. Ugh, cough cough, bad. Cough you damn son of a bitch, said the blonde boy, staggering to his feet and pulling a firearm from his clothes, half pointing it at Issei, consider yourself dead. Bang. And fired directly at Issei. Issei was shot but. It was my favorite shirt, you bastard, Issei complained, looking at the bullet hole in his shirt as the bullet had remained still in his chest due to the hardness of his skin. The guy was confused. Issei didn't wait and quickly punched him in the stomach again, but this one was so strong that it made him fall unconscious immediately. "You damn fool," Issei said, looking at the guy on the ground. "You screwed them up," said Drake, watching everything with a certain pride. I sighed as I looked at the woman who still seemed scared, covering the children. "Are you okay?" Issei asked, looking at the woman. "Why yes, thank you young man," the woman said gratefully, and Issei nodded. He approached her and, taking out his bag of money, gave it to her, surprising her. "Here, you guys need this more than I do," Issei said with a smile. I can't accept this," the woman said, trying to push the money away, but Issei shook his head. "I insist, so take it ma'am. By the way, you'd better go to Grundelles Hospital to have your wounds treated," Issei said as he left. Thank you so much, young man," the woman shouted while crying tears of joy. Issei simply said goodbye, but then stopped abruptly and looked at the woman. "By the way, do you know the way to the main street?" "I'm lost," Issei said, embarrassed. Some time later. "Phew, I've finally reached the main street," said Issei, looking at the main street. "I walk back to Night Ride headquarters. He doesn't know where Leon is, but he's probably gone to scam someone. I walk for a while until I spot Leon in the distance." She also looked at him to greet him with a smile. Issei sighed, what a partner he got, but he didn't dislike her because he felt that she was a very good person despite everything. The two returned to the base chatting. Now they had Issei as help, and that would be good. Believe. End 0809, first mission. Days later Grundelle Mansion. "So now you have a new job," said Angela Grundelle, sitting in the mansion's living room next to Issei, who had come to visit. "Yes, it was sudden, but now I have a job," Issei lied, since the truth is that he had been at Night Ride all those days. Days have passed since he joined the group, but he has not been given a mission. He continues hunting dangerous beasts, but now north or south of the capital. Today I was alone with Angela because Arya, along with Tatsumi, Seo, and Ieyasu, went to the hospital and did some other things. The beautiful woman was accompanied by her faithful servant Roberta, who stood behind her with a solemn expression. "At least you're doing well, since it's been a while since we last saw you," Angela said to the brunette, who laughed sheepishly. "Sorry about that, but work has kept me busy, so I brought gifts to make up for it," Issei said, and the woman smiled amusedly. "And beautiful gifts, let me tell you," Angela said, touching a necklace of red pearls that Issei had acquired 2 days earlier outside the capital. Roberta had a gold bracelet that Issei gave her, but because she was wearing a maid's outfit, it wasn't visible. "But you're doing very well working for Night Ride," Angela mentioned, looking at Issei, who tensed up and became serious instantly. Angela-san, no, but she interrupted him. "Calm down please, I know you're from Night Ride because Najenda told me about it," Angela said, surprising Issei. "Could it be that you're Najenda's contact in the capital?" Issei said, and Angela smiled. "Yes, our family supports the Revolutionary Army in this effort to eliminate the darkness from the capital, so you don't have to hide the fact that you're part of Night Ride," Angela said, making Issei sigh. "Thank goodness, I was scared, you know. I didn't think he knew about Night Ride," Issei said. "Yes, my mother and father taught me things about this rotten place that would terrify you, so when I learned about the Revolutionary Army, I didn't hesitate to join their cause," Angela said calmly. "My husband was a supporter of the current regime and hid it from me for many years. I married him young, and from that union, my beloved daughter was born. My parents had already passed away, leaving me their entire fortune. That man only took advantage of me and married me to get his hands on my wealth so he could gain status in the empire. But when I found out, I killed him myself by poisoning his food," she said coldly, frightening Issei. "Believe it or not, judging by how I look, I've killed before. I'm a poison specialist and also a doctor, so it's easy for me to know which poisons are lethal and difficult to detect. I'm an honorary member of Night Ride, and I've helped when it comes to luring corrupt idiots and eliminating them without them even noticing," she said, smiling calmly, frightening Issei. "This woman is really scary," Issei thought, frightened. "You know what would be fun? That she ends up liking you, although with how you charmed the leader of the Yokai, it wouldn't surprise me at all, that's why friend," said Drake, making Issei more nervous, but he was confused by what he said. "What do you mean I attract you, Sokka-san? You're not making this up, are you?" Issei asked, not understanding or believing what Drake said. The dragon sighed and left him without answers. He would find out in the future. "But don't worry, I value my friends and allies very much, and you, Ice-kun, are a good friend of the family," Angela said, smiling beautifully that stunned Issei. "Oh, I'm glad to know you hold me in high esteem and you are my friends too. You helped me, even if only a little, but you did help me," Issei said, smiling happily. Angela smiled, and so the two chatted about trivial things, because although it may not seem like it, Issei managed to maintain a good conversation that even interested Roberta. The hours passed and the 4 missing ones returned. And then he was arranging the supplies in the warehouse when he tripped and all the boxes buried him alive. Issei's voice was heard, animatedly recounting an anecdote. Ahahaha. Angela's voice sounded clearly amused. HMPH. Roberta could even be heard holding back her laughter. Leon and I laughed at him, but then we got him out from where he was. It was really funny to see him under so many boxes of food, Issei said, chuckling slightly as he remembered something that happened a day ago at Night Ride headquarters. Good afternoon and hello Ice, it's been a while, Aria greeted, entering followed by Tatsumi and his two friends. Oh, hi guys, yeah, a few days, Issei said, smiling. Welcome back, how did it go? Angela asked the newcomers. Well, it was very hectic, the doctors and nurses couldn't keep up with the patients arriving, but everything was resolved quickly, Aria said, taking a seat in an armchair. Tatsumi sat next to Issei with Seo to his right and Ieyasu next to his sister. Oh wow, when something like that happens you have to let me know, I could help you, Angela told her daughter. No, Mom, you spend it until late at night at the hospital. It was your day off and it seems you spent it with Ice, Aria said, smiling at her. Yes, he came this morning and, as we talked throughout the day, we even had lunch here, Angela said, smiling happily. Aria raised an eyebrow. She had never seen her mother so smiley and comfortable with someone. She looked at Issei and felt strange, but let it go since they were just speculations. Then Issei was invited to stay for the day, he accepted, and so they spent the rest of the afternoon talking. The next day Night Ride base. Everyone was gathered in the meeting room, with Negenda looking serious as she smoked her cigarette. Alright, now that you're all here, I'll tell you that you have a mission, Negenda said seriously, taking out a folder with some papers inside. This is our target. The owner of the largest brothel in the capital, Under Eden, she said, and everyone understood. Each of them took a sheet of paper from the folder. Issei also took one out of curiosity, since he doubted that they would include him in the mission. On the sheet I look at everything related to that subject. Name real. Age 57 years. Occupation owner of the Under Eden brothel. Level high. Charges he is accused of kidnapping girls from the poor parts of the capital and from abroad to turn them into prostitutes in his establishment, as well as financially supporting the causes of Prime Minister Honest and being his cousin. He is also a rapist and murderer, his preferred victims are minors. This guy is a piece of shit, Issei said with a frown. I agree with him, it's a load of crap, Lubbock said irritably. People like him should be killed in the most painful way possible, Mine said, disgusted by what she had read. HMPH, torturing that scum will be a very good thing, Maraid said with a sadistic smile, as some purple insects landed on his shoulders. Who will be going on this mission? Bullied asked Negenda. For this mission I will send Mine, Lubbock, Maraid and Issei, Negenda said, as everyone looked at a surprised Issei pointing at himself. Who, me? Issei said, surprised to be chosen despite being new to the group. Yes, it may sound rushed since we don't usually send a new member on a mission, but I trust you have the skills to successfully complete this mission, Negenda said, and Issei felt good about being held in high esteem. Well, I'll do everything in my power to exterminate the target, Issei said seriously, and Negenda nodded. I hope so. Well, the mission starts at 9 p.m. Real will be at his mansion at that time with one of the women they bring from the outskirts, Negenda said. Now, Mine will clear the outside so Maraid, Lubbock and Issei can go in. Inside, you have to eliminate all the guards and free the girls he's holding captive. Then, one of you has to eliminate the target and bring back evidence, she said, and Issei raised his hand. Yes? He asked. If you'll allow me, I want to be the one to eliminate that piece of shit, Issei requested, and Negenda thought about it for a moment. I think this is fine, that way we can find out how effective their methods are, Lubbock said. Even if I wanted to torture that pathetic excuse for a man, I might as well let the new guy kill the target, Maraid said without thinking much about it. Whatever, just don't ruin the mission, that's all, Mine said, still annoyed with Issei for no reason. Well, Issei can take care of Real, but bring some proof that you killed him, Negenda said, as Issei smiled slightly. Haha, I think I know what to bring, said Issei, giving Lubbock a bad feeling and intriguing everyone. Well, that concludes the meeting. Now get ready, Negenda said, standing up and bidding farewell to everyone. With that, Issei would start to leave, but Leon would approach him to talk, since she spends a lot of time with the brunette. So, what will you bring as proof that you killed that guy? She asked curiously, and Issei smiled. It will be a surprise, but believe me, they will be surprised, Issei said, further intriguing the girl. Time later night. Okay, the target is inside the mansion, Mine said, looking at everything through the telescopic side of her Tigu. Okay, let's go, Maraid ordered. Lubbock jumped, swinging on his strings like Spider-Man, while Issei entered balance breaker and flew straight to the ceiling. Maraid ran at high speeds towards the target's mansion. Mine remained hidden on the branches of a tree and pointed her gun at some guards at strategic points in the mansion. Issei descended onto the roof of the mansion and, looking for a way in, noticed an open window. How careless can you be to leave a window open? Issei asked the heir as he entered the mansion through that window. I'd say stupid, Drake would say. You're right, and so, using his stealth skills honed from spying on the girls while they changed, along with the clear vision that demons and dragons possess, he circled quickly through the dark corridors of the mansion, barely visible as a blurry smudge. While on the ground floor, several corpses were purple, while strange insects emerged from their bodies. They're not even good for doing their jobs, tch, men, Marade complained as the insects returned to their shadow. Mara, please don't lump all men together in that same bag, pleaded Lubbock, who was standing behind her, leaving several dismembered bodies. Sorry, it's a habit, she said with a slight smile, making Lubbock sigh. Well, let's split up and do our jobs, Lubbock said, and she nodded. Marade stayed on the ground floor while Lubbock went upstairs. Marade arrived at a door being guarded by guards. He quickly approached them, and before they could react, he slashed the first man's jugular vein with his sharp nails and delivered a powerful kick to the other's chest, shattering his ribsage and internal organs. The two fell and died seconds later. She cut the lock on the iron door with her nails and watched them descend a basement. Let's see what this disgusting old man has, she said, going down the stairs. Lubbock had killed several guards and left several girls who had siphoned victims of those who lived here. This old son of a bitch, I hope Issei does something nasty to him because otherwise I won't be calm, Lubbock said angrily. Well, according to the informant in that report, this is the old fart's room, Issei said, standing in front of a pair of wooden doors with details that made them look elegant, even a gold doorknob inlaid with diamonds. He closed his eyes, concentrating, because demons could sense the energies of other beings, not as well as a Nekomato Yokai, but they were good, and Kaneko had also taught him something about Senjutsu, so he could perform Tauki better. After a few seconds he felt 5 energies, one masculine and the others feminine. Alright, it's time to ruin the old man's party, Issei said, entering Balance Breaker to remove the doors from their hinges. Inside, he saw something that made him feel uncomfortable and annoyed. First, he smelled the strong scent of drugs in the air and a smoke that was possibly some kind of aphrodisiac. A bald, naked old man was displaying his genitals, and 4 naked girls, all beautiful and with great bodies, but with vacant stares, possibly due to the drugs and the aphrodisiac. Who the hell are you? Real demanded, annoyed but somewhat scared. I am the Grim Reaper and I've come for you, you old piece of shit, Issei said, his voice distorted by his helmet as he entered the room. At first, Real didn't see who it was because of the smoke, but when he finally got a good look, he almost scared himself half to death. He had heard from some of his colleagues that a new killer unrelated to Night Ride had recently been reported. All that was known was that he possessed a bright red armor with gold details and green eyes. Know why your Real left the girls aside and backed away until he hit the wall, so scared was he, thinking he might melt into the wall. Oh, I see you know me, Issei said, somewhat surprised, since he wasn't known, or was he? Why, you're that guy in armor who's killed several nobles, he said, scared to the core, barely able to breathe properly. The girls who were with the old man, under the influence they were under, approached Issei and began to touch him, something that made Issei inside the armor blush and feel somewhat nervous. Relax, Issei, just think of Rias naked, Issei thought, avoiding thinking about the Hexy girls touching his armor. Real thought he had a chance when he saw Issei standing still with the girls, but a green beam pierced his legs. Real screamed, falling face down to the ground. Where do you think you're going, you old fart? You won't make it past today, Issei said, knocking the girls unconscious and gently laying them on the ground. And no. I don't want to die. Please leave me alone. The old man screamed in fear as blood trickled from the holes in his legs. I'll give you anything you want, money, women, drugs, one of my businesses, anything, just don't kill me. But Issei grabbed him by the jaw, silencing his clumsy attempts at pleading. Shut up, you're driving me crazy, you old piece of shit, Issei said, clearly annoyed. Besides, that's probably what many of your victims told you, and you bastard, raped them and then sent them to your brothel. But no more. Today you die, old man, he said, his eyes shining brightly and a reddish aura beginning to cover him. MMMMMM. MMMMMMM. Real screamed, but through the hand covering her mouth, only pitiful moans could be heard. Issei quickly pressed his hand over Real's mouth and… crack. A disgusting breaking sound was heard and tears along with snot gushed from Real's face, along with blood coming out of his mouth. He screamed, still with his mouth covered because his jaw was broken. Issei then summoned Ascalon with his free hand. Slash. M. Another muffled scream escaped Real's battered mouth. His left leg was severed and blood was gushing from it, staining the white floor. Slash. Another cut and another leg fell while the old man writhed in Issei's grip. Then Ascalon disappeared and punched him powerfully in the stomach and let him go. Real vomited blood with whatever he ate before. Issei looked at that without a hint of disgust. He had done that before and although at first it made him nauseous, now he felt nothing. Off avaf Bobby base Real would say with his jaw dangling ugly, as it looked like a piece of meat that was just hanging off him. Issei said nothing and kicked him, sending him crashing into the wall and breaking his back. Real felt a horrible pain in his body. He did not expect his end to be like this, he never expected to die in this way, or even that he was going to be murdered. He looked at the figure in red armor in front of him, that figure, that. Monfuo, Real would say, making Issei stop. No, monsters don't do anything for anyone, they don't care about anyone, and they wouldn't avenge anyone. The only monster here is you old piece of shit, Issei said, taking out Ascalon and preparing him. Say hi to your friends in hell, he said, finally killing Real by slicing off his head. An expression of absolute terror was etched as the final reaction on the face of the one who has ruined many lives. Issei sighed. Killing sometimes didn't feel good, but here he learned that it was kill or be killed. That applied in his world, because against the Chaos Brigade it was like that. Kill or be killed. Ah, now what do I do with them? Issei asked, looking at the unconscious girls. Take them with you and leave them where that woman with the eye patch indicated before they left the base, Drake said. True, but first he looked at Real's severed body. Half an hour later. Night ride base. Mission accomplished, Marade said, and Agenda nodded. Everyone was gathered again in the meeting room. Well, Issei, you finished off Real, right? Agenda asked, and Issei just approached her with a cloth bag. She already knew what was in there. The chestnut-haired man simply placed the bag in front of Agenda and returned to his place. Agenda opened the bag, surprised. Wow, this is something I've never seen before, she said, surprised. What did he do? Bullied asked. Look, Agenda pulled her head out of the bag. It was cauterized around the neck to stop the bleeding, and her jaw was hanging like soft meat, with the old man's balls in her mouth. Bullied and Lubbock surprised everyone, with the latter taking the balls. Mine had a look of disgust, more from seeing the balls than from the head. Leon whistled in surprise. The Kane was surprised and nodded. Meanwhile, Marade looked slightly surprised at Issei, who was calm. Well, with this we can say that another parasite has been eliminated from this rotten society, Agenda said, and everyone nodded. Issei, good job, we're counting on you in the future, she said, smiling, and Issei nodded. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to sleep. I'm very sleepy and it's 10 o'clock, Issei said, yawning as he went to his room. Of course, everyone can go now and sleep well, Agenda said, bidding farewell to everyone. Good night. They would all say before going to their rooms, although Leon would go with Issei. You really surprised me, I didn't expect that from someone with a good boy face, Leon said next to Issei. Yes, well, I wanted to do something different, said Issei, since he had only left impaled those he killed, he was already resembling the old king of Balaquia, Vlad Tepes III. Well, you were still very creative, seriously, Leon would say, emphasizing the balls in the mouth incident. Thank you, Issei said with a slight smile. Thus the two arrived at their rooms, which happened to be next to each other, as Leon had done on purpose. Well, good night Leon, sleep well Waya, Issei said, letting out a yawn at the end. Sure, good night Ice, but she stopped and a cat-like smile appeared on her face. Hey Ice, don't you want this innocent to sleep with you? I mean, as a reward for your good work on your first mission, she said, hoping he would blush and get nervous. But I don't expect the next thing. Indeed, so let's go, Issei said, taking the hand of the surprised Leon, who simply let him. Issei pulled her into bed with him, to hug her and bury his head between the blonde soft, large breasts. Good night, and with that he went to sleep. Leon was surprised, but she smiled. It was nice to have Issei among her equals, so she carefully hugged him and clung to him. Yes, good night Ice, and she fell asleep too. Thus ended Issei's first mission, the first of many, all aimed at ending the corrupt and disgusting government that looms over those who cannot defend themselves. Although with the future hero of the factions and the supernatural world, everything will be alright. End 09. Then a normal day and a new recruit. The next day. After the night passed, Issei now woke up early. His biological clock made him wake up at 4 a.m., sleeping only 6 hours, although that wasn't a problem. He opened his eyes, looking at Leon's face very close to him. Although he didn't blush, he moved away a little, even though she was holding him tightly. But if there's one thing Issei knows how to do, it's to break free from the grasp of any woman, so using his cultivated skills of sleeping while trapped by 6 girls, he freed himself from Leon's embrace by replacing himself with a pillow. "Okay, it's time to train," he said, leaving the room and Leon, who frowned when she didn't feel him in bed. 1 hour later. -397. 398. 399. 400. Issei finished counting the push-ups he did with 2 weights attached to his back. Then someone would arrive. "Oh, Issei, good morning," Bullied greeted, also starting his training routine. "You're a very early riser, I see," he said, approaching to assemble some weights that were stored in a shed. "Well, where I come from, if I don't have enough strength, things could end badly," Issei said, remembering the week he spent with Tannen in the mountains of his territory. He barely slept in the cave Tannen gave him, fearing that he would have to run for his life and attack, in addition to training that would make even the strongest human cry. "Wow, that sounds like a very troubled place," Bullied said, finishing assembling the weights and starting to train by doing squats. "No, it's just that there are times when I have to fight for my life, but the rest is a peaceful life," Issei said, taking a bottle of water and drinking from it. Bullied saw him and was surprised, because since Issei wasn't wearing a shirt, he looked at his body, which seemed thin, quite normal considering the training he probably had to do, but something told him that he didn't need to have so many lumps to have a very strong body. "Well, I'll let you go, I have to run," Issei said, trotting away. "Of course," Bullied would say, continuing with his training. 1 hour later. "Okay, now, where the hell am I?" The chestnut-haired man wandered atop a mountain crag far from the capital. "That's why I told you to pay attention to the path, you got so caught up in running and jumping like an idiot that in the end you ended up lost," Drake scolded him. "It's just that, you know that when I do parkour I get carried away," Issei would say by way of excuse. "Regardless, you should pay attention to where you're going, it's going to be hard to walk back now," Drake said as Issei sighed. The chestnut-haired man scratched his head, taking in the vast panorama. He was on a cliff, looking into the abyss at the rocks and a huge forest. He looked at a large lake next to some mountains in the background. "This would be a nice place to live," Issei said, appreciating the natural beauty. He started running to find a way back, however beautiful the scenery was, getting lost was not a nice thing, especially when he wasn't a true ex-pirate hunter. He ran through the trees of the dense forest, avoiding unnecessary fights with dangerous beasts. Finally, he reached a clearing in the middle of the great forest, being more lost than Zoro. "Damn, I'd better use the armor," the brunette complained, about to use the balance breaker when he saw it. Emerging from the forest was a creature that was cool in Issei's eyes. It looked like a velociraptor, it was at least 5 meters tall, with feathered crests on both arms and a crest of feathers on its head. It was a dark green color, its feathers were white with red tips, in addition to having small horns on its head and spikes at the tip of its tail. The beast looked at Issei, and Issei looked at the beast. The beast analyzed Issei and then roared at him and lunged to kill him. "Well, I'm not going to kill him, now I have a new pet," Issei said, smiling as he prepared himself. The creature ran at great speed towards Issei, its jaws wide open, revealing a sharp row of teeth. Issei got into a fighting stance. The creature lashed out with a powerful bite, but Issei dodged to the right and delivered a powerful left hook to the beast's jaw. The poor animal was thrown backwards by the powerful blow. Had it not been resistant, it would have lost its head. Issei didn't wait and kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying a few meters away. The creature recovered, but now looked at Issei with fear. Issei approached the creature while releasing his presence, making it clear who was superior there. The creature shrank in fear, for it knew that Issei had always been the predator in the place. "Well, kid," Issei said, stroking the beast's head, which simply let him. "Well, now you're mine, and I'll call you Yashi," he said, smiling. The creature didn't understand a word he said, but now he knew that Issei was his master. "Yashi? Seriously? I hope your girlfriends know how to name your children, because you're terrible with names," said Drake, making Issei angry. "Shut up," Issei shouted, like a certain brown raccoon who has a bluebird as a friend. After calming down, Issei mounted the creature. "I'll have to get you a mount, but anyway, come on Yashi, let's go to the base," Issei said, pointing to a place. Yashi, now, ran at great speed where Issei pointed, making the chestnut-haired boy feel as if he were riding a horse, but instead he took a Pardex. Hours later. "We're finally here," Issei said, looking at the night raid base. Issei was riding on Yashi who was fresh, since running 100 kilometers was nothing for him. Issei got off Yashi and looked at him seriously. "I don't know if you understand me, but behave yourself and don't try to eat anyone, and I'm not saying that for their sake, I'm saying it for yours," Issei said seriously, his eyes glowing green, scaring the animal. Then he just silently followed the chestnut tree. Issei walked past, going to the back of the base, noticing that there was no one there. They must be inside, Issei said. Then he went to look for a chain in the shed they had there. He went to Yashi and wrapped the chain around his neck and tied him to a tree. Stay there and don't make a fuss. Later I'll find something for you to eat and drink, okay? Issei said to Yashi, who nodded in understanding. Good, I'll be right back. And with that, he left Yashi tied to the tree. Yashi just lay down on the ground waiting for his master. I'm back. Issei shouted in the main room of the base. Ice? Leon asked, arriving at the scene. Where have you been? It's almost noon, she said, sounding somewhat annoyed. Sorry about that, but I got carried away during my training and lost my train, Issei said, scratching the back of his head. Ah, whatever, the good thing is that it's here now, let's go to the kitchen, Akame I left you some. They arrived at the kitchen and there was prepared food. Issei reheated it to eat. By the way, where is everyone? He asked, confused when he didn't see anyone. Doing missions, the boss was looking for you, but when Beulah told her you went to train, she just dropped it and everyone went off to do their own thing, Leon said, sitting at the table watching Issei eat. You eat a lot, you're like Akame, she added, amused. You're not one to talk, although I think I already know where all that food is going, said Issei, looking at Leon's melons, who smiled. Oh, and do you want to touch? She asked playfully while touching her breasts. I already did it last night, it's like an unconscious impulse, I like to knead girls' breasts when I sleep, Issei said shamelessly. You know, you're not funny when you're being honest, Leon said with a pout. It's in my name literally, my name means sincere, Issei said calmly. After a while the two went out to the backyard and Leon was surprised to see Yashi. That's a green raptor, what's it doing tied up here? Did you bring it here? She asked, surprised to see Yashi. Yes, it's my new pet, its name is Yashi, Issei said, unsettling Leon both because of the pet part in the name. You know, Ice, you never cease to amaze me, and I like that, Leon said, smiling. Well, I'm going to get him some food, I'll be right back, said Issei, going deeper into the forest, leaving Leon staring at Yashi. Yashi saw her but ignored her and went back to sleep, as he didn't want to have problems with his master if he did anything to the one who, in his opinion, was Issei's mate. Ice really does tend to surprise everyone, she said to herself, crossing her arms and looking at Yashi. Some time later. Issei was arriving at the Grundelle mansion, as Najenda told him that she had entrusted Angela with something. Issei deduced that it could be poison. He greeted the guards and other workers he encountered, and upon reaching the door and knocking, he was attended to by August. Welcome Issei-san, Mrs. Angela is waiting for you in the living room, August said with a smile. Thank you, August, excuse me, said Issei, entering the mansion. I walked to the room where I saw Angela next to Roberta, the latter looking at me seriously. Hello Ice-kun, how are you? Angela asked, smiling as she saw Issei. Very well, thank you for asking, and how are you all? Issei asked the two women. We're fine, well, please take a seat, Angela said, patting the armchair next to her. Issei agreed and sat down, giving him space. Well, you know why I'm here, Issei said, and she nodded. Roberta, dear, please bring the box from my room, he asked Roberta, who nodded. Of course, ma'am, and after giving Issei one last look, she left to get what she had asked for. When Roberta left, Issei didn't hesitate to ask. Why is Roberta looking at me like that? Did I do something to offend her? Issei asked Angela, who shook her head. It's just that she's very cautious, especially now that you're part of Night Raid, but it's because she didn't expect you to be an assassin, since you looked like a normal guy, and that took her by surprise, Angela said calmly, moving closer to Issei, making him nervous. And now tell me, I heard they took down the old man from Real, well, his filthy brothel was destroyed, and the girls who work there are now in rehab, and some are working elsewhere, she added, now even closer to a nervous Issei. Well, yes, it was a relatively easy mission, there weren't many complications, thanks to Maid-san, Lubbock and mine, Issei said nervously, making Angela smile. Oh, well, Najenda also told me what you did to Real, you know. I didn't expect you to be so heartless. You have a very hidden wild side, Ice-kun, Angela said, smiling broadly, which made Issei even more nervous. Yeah, haha, he deserved it after everything he did, Issei said, smiling nervously. Angela noticed that and smiled even more. At that moment Roberta arrived, seeing Angela swarming a nervous and blushing Issei. Here is what Angela-sama asked me for, Roberta would say. Angela moved a little away from Issei, sticking to the couch without moving. Well, give it to Ice-kun please, Angela said, and Roberta approached. She handed him a wooden box with a Grundelle house symbol on it. These are highly dangerous poisons, specially made to kill the target from the inside out, Angela explained, surprising Issei. Well, I think I'll be going now, we have a mission today, Issei said, but Angela stopped him. It's not time for you to leave yet because there's still something else to do, Angela said. What would it be? Issei asked, looking at the woman. "The new member," she would say, smiling. Issei was confused. "New member?" Issei asked. "Yes, you see, I'm also in charge of seeing who has the potential to join Night Raid as long as they come through here, so out of the 3 young people who recently arrived, only one shows the potential to enter Night Raid," Angela said, surprising Issei even more. "Really? Which of the 3?" Issei asked, surprised. "Tatsumi-san," Angela would say. Issei opened his eyes in surprise. He didn't expect someone like Tatsumi to have the potential to be an assassin. "Now stay a little longer and keep us company, and when Arya returns with the others, you can go with Tatsumi," Angela said, smiling and approaching the brunette under the gaze of a serious Roberta. Issei was nervous. Was it because of Angela's beauty? Roberta's gaze? Or because he wasn't used to being flirted with by a beautiful woman older than him? "Okay," he said, giving in, making Angela smile. So they spent some time talking about anything and everything, with Issei listening the most about Angela. Roberta remained silent, simply observing the interaction between Issei and his mistress. After about 30 minutes of talking and Angela making Issei nervous, Arya and company arrived. "Mother, we're back and it seems Issei-san is here too," Arya said, looking at those present. "Welcome guys, and yes, he came a while ago on an errand," Angela said, smiling as she stood very close to the blushing brunette. Arya saw that and raised an eyebrow. It was strange that her mother was close to any man, especially one younger than her, but she dismissed it. "So you've come for Tatsumi-kun, right?" Arya asked Issei. "Well, according to Angela, I have to take him to the." He looked at Seo and Ieyasu, then at Arya who nodded. "She said he has what's needed to get in," he said, and Arya smiled, hugging the left arm of the now blushing Tatsumi, much to the jealousy of Seo, who frowned. "Yes, he's more than suitable to join Night Raid," Arya said, sounding proud. "Well, then." Issei was about to say that they were leaving, but Angela put a hand on his thigh making him look at her. "They stay for lunch and then they leave," Angela would say, smiling. Issei sighed and ended up accepting. He couldn't say no to that beautiful lady. The newcomers saw that as strange, and Roberta just sighed. Some time later. "Well, we're leaving," Issei said, next to Tatsumi, who was carrying the travel backpack he had brought to the capital. "Be careful, and Ice, come more often, your company is pleasant," Angela said, smiling, and Issei nodded with a slight smile. "Of course, I'll also bring Tatsumi so you can see that he's okay," Issei said, the latter directed at Arya and Seo, who smiled. "Tatsumi, try not to mess it up," Ieyasu said, making Tatsumi look at him with a really expression. "You're not the one to talk, Seo told me it was your fault they got lost before coming to the capital," Tatsumi said, causing a stone with the word idiot to fall on Ieyasu. "That was an accident," he would say, trying to excuse himself. "Yes, repeat it until you believe it," Tatsumi would say, looking completely incredulous. Issei smiled amusedly at that. "Alright buddy, let's go, there's something to do," Issei said, patting Tatsumi's shoulder. "Sure, see you later," Tatsumi said, smiling. Thus the 2 chestnut-haired ones, one with brown eyes and one with green eyes, left the Grundelle property heading towards the Night Raid base. Little did they know that a great friendship would be born there, one that would last for many years. End 10. Chapter 11. Moments later. Looking at Issei, Tatsumi pointed to the base that is supposed to be secret. "Yes, that was my expression the first time I came, but you get used to it over time," Issei said, dismissing the topic. Issei and Tatsumi arrived at the main entrance, where the chestnut-haired man proceeded to knock. It didn't take long before the slit opened, revealing black eyes, then closed, and a mechanism could be heard moving. Tatsumi looked at that confused but remained silent. The door opened and a smiling Bullied greeted them. "Hello Ice, it seems you took your time and brought the new member," Bullied said, finally looking at Tatsumi and extending his hand in greeting, which Tatsumi accepted. "Nice to meet you, I'm Bullied," he introduced himself with a Colgate brand smile. "Tatsumi, a pleasure," Tatsumi said in a friendly manner. "First of all, he's gay," Issei said, wanting to see Tatsumi's reaction. Tatsumi was obviously surprised by the news. "Come on, don't say that, haha," Bullied said, embarrassed. And he didn't deny it, Tatsumi thought. "Haha, well, let's go inside, I have to give this to the boss," Issei said, showing the box he was carrying. "Right, come on in," Bullied said, gesturing towards the chestnut trees. Thus the 2 chestnut trees and the tufted one entered, closing the enormous door behind them. Tatsumi looked around the place, surprised at how normal it was, because when he was told about Night Raid and what they did, he expected something different. They walked to Nagenda's office, where after knocking on the door, she let them in. "Oh, Issei, you're back," Nagenda said upon seeing Issei, then looked at Tatsumi, "and I see you brought the new recruit." "Nice to meet you, I'm Tatsumi and I come from a town south of the capital," the green-eyed man introduced himself. "I'm Nagenda." I used to be part of the Imperial Army, a general, but after seeing how they worked, I decided to join the Revolutionary Army. Now I'm the leader of Night Raid. I hope you know what you're getting into, Nagenda said at the end, sounding serious. Yes, I'm clear on that, although I didn't expect the capital and the empire itself to be very rotten, Tatsumi said. Believe me, I thought that too, but after witnessing some crimes in broad daylight and worse, at night, I realized that this place is only beautiful in appearance because it has more shit than a latrine, Issei said, and Tatsumi nodded. Well, Issei, go and take him to one of the empty rooms so he can settle in there. I'll inform the others about his inclusion in the group later, Nagenda said, and Issei nodded, leaving Nagenda and Bullied alone. Do you really think you can stand being here? Bullied asked Nagenda. He will, Arya and Angela recommend him, and you know how they are when it comes to finding candidates for the group, especially when it comes to Angela, Nagenda said, smoking. You're right, well, I'll leave you now, and so Bullied left because he wanted to meet his new companion. Nagenda was left alone smoking. I hope he's a good assassin, Nagenda said, because this job was something bad for them. Alright, you'll stay here. Put your things away and then go down to the main hall, Issei said, opening a door that led to a furnished room that would be Tatsumi's room. Sure, I'll come down later, Tatsumi said, entering the room. You know the way, so I'll see you there, and with that, Issei walked away. The chestnut tree under the stairs bumped into Maraid. Hello, Issei greeted. Hello, she said, walking past. Issei was confused but dismissed it and simply left. When Maraid arrived upstairs, she looked at Issei for a few seconds before going to her room. The chestnut-haired man arrived at the main hall where Shiel was accompanied by Mine. Hello Shiel, Mine, Issei greeted, taking a seat opposite her. Hello Ice-kun, Shiel said, smiling. Hello, Mine said, without much enthusiasm. Issei ignored her and took out some lollipops he had bought on the way to the hideout. Here, buy a lot, Issei said, handing 2 lollipops to each of them. Thank you, Ice-kun, Shiel said, smiling and taking the lollipops. Mine took them. Thank you, she said, sounding reluctant. So what are you doing? Issei asked, with a lollipop in his mouth. Well, nothing special, we were just talking, Shiel said. And you? She asked. Well, I just got back from the order the boss placed, and I also brought the new recruit, Issei said calmly. Another one? Isn't you enough? Mine asked. Don't tell me anything, it was the boss who sent him to recruit, Issei said, ignoring Mine. She just frowned. I just hope it doesn't get in the way, she said, crossing her arms. Minutes later Tatsumi arrived, looking somewhat lost. Oh Tatsumi, it's good that you're here, come let me introduce you to a nice young lady, Issei said, referring to Shiel. Already your friend, he added listlessly, referring to Mine, who was annoyed. Hey. Mine complained, but Issei ignored her. Nice to meet you, I'm Tatsumi, I hope we can work well together from now on, Tatsumi introduced himself, being the nice guy he is. Nice to meet you, Tatsumi-kun. I'm Shiel, and it will be a pleasure to work with you, Shiel introduced herself amicably, as always. HMPH, just don't get in the way, okay? Mine said, looking seriously at Tatsumi. The green-eyed man was confused. She's mine and she's the tsundere of the group. If you can handle her, fine, otherwise ignore her, Issei said, looking at Tatsumi. Mine was obviously annoyed by that. Arg, I'm not a tsundere, you damn idiot. Mine yelled angrily. Yes, whatever you say, Issei said, downplaying the pink-haired girl's tantrum. Tatsumi saw that, but tried to ignore it. At that moment, Akame arrived accompanied by Maraid. Hello Issei greeted the two of them. Hello Issei, I see you brought the new recruit, Akame said, smiling. Nice to meet you, I'm Akame, she introduced herself. Tatsumi blushed at Akame's beauty. Why yes, a pleasure, I'm Tatsumi, he introduced himself after coming out of his stupor. I hope you're up to the task. This isn't just any job, and I'm Maraid Orberg, by the way, Maraid said calmly. A pleasure, Tatsumi said. The two walked past and Tatsumi blushed deeply when he saw the back of Maraid's outfit. You'll get used to it, Issei said, seeing Tatsumi's face. One day later. When I was admitted to the group, I didn't expect this, Tatsumi said, wearing an apron and cooking. Shut up and pass me the potatoes, said Issei, also wearing an apron and cooking a stew. The two chestnut-haired boys were in the kitchen, one because he was told to and the other because he wanted to help Tatsumi, especially since Akame was doing nothing but eating. Akame, please don't eat the grapes, Issei said to the black-haired girl who was eating grapes. Sorry, he apologized, but continued eating. Ah, whatever, Issei said, focusing on the beef stew. He was recently taught and now he can do it well. Ah, look at them there, like employees. Mine said, mocking the two of them. Tatsumi got angry, but Issei ignored her. Are you going on a mission? Issei asked Lubbock. "Yes, we'll be back for lunch," said the green-haired boy, to which Issei nodded. "Hey, when will I go on missions?" Tatsumi asked Issei. Issei just shrugged, implying that he didn't know. "Ah, you're a rookie, you can't do missions with us professionals yet, you'd better stay in the kitchen," Mine said, mocking Mine. "At least he can cook, unlike that other woman who can't even boil an egg," Issei said without looking at her, but he felt her furious gaze. Lubbock and Bullied, who were on a mission with her, held back their laughter. "Drrrr, shut up," Mine shouted, pointing at Issei. Issei just smiled at that. "Anyway, see you later guys," Bullied said, smiling and waving goodbye. "Yes, take care," Issei said. And so the trio left with a sulking Mine. That's where Marade would come in. "Wow, that smells good," Marade said, sniffing the aroma of the stew. "Yes, even I'm surprised it smells like that," said Issei, surprised by what he had achieved, although Tatsumi's help was also very useful. Marade looked at Akame who was just eating. "Ah, Akame, let them cook and let's go," Marade said, taking her hand. But Mara Akame complained with a pout. "No buts, if you stay here there won't be anything left for lunch, so let's go," said Marade, approaching Akame who left her apron on the kitchen table. "You take the fun out of life," Akame complained. And so the two of them left, leaving the pair of chestnut trees behind. "Issei, is it just me, or are those two?" Tatsumi asked, confused. "Well, I don't know, it's likely," Issei said, not really knowing, but judging by how they behaved, the answer was obvious. Tatsumi said, understanding. That's how they finished eating, and Issei and Tatsumi went their separate ways to do other tasks that they had to do. Imperial capital. "Okay, all that's left is to buy the sugar, and I'll go back with everything," said Issei, pulling a large cart loaded with a month's supplies. Everyone looked at him in surprise. For a boy who looked so scrawny to be pulling a cart full of sacks of various things was not normal. Issei could pull heavy things, no, even Kaneko could pull that cart without sighing, it was a matter of training his muscles, and the training he follows helps him a lot. He pulled the cart to the front of a warehouse, where he went inside to buy sugar. It didn't take long, and he left carrying 5 sacks of sugar. He loaded them onto the cart and pulled it again under the surprised gaze of several people. Issei was walking calmly, without bothering anyone. "When that happens. Move aside," shouted a man with the cart covered, who was running alongside 2 others carrying bags. They were going to pass in front of Issei, but he tripped the first one who fell face down on the ground. The other 2 were going to leave their friend, but a wild Koro appeared tackling one, and a wild Seiryu appeared kicking the other. "That's it, now you thugs will have to face justice," Seiryu said angrily. Issei looked at that and was going to continue, but Koro was in front of him. The organic Tigu could only see him while wagging its tail. Issei crouched down and petted the Tigu dog, who happily wagged its tail. "Oh, Issei-san, were you the one who brought down this thug?" Seiryu asked, noticing Issei. "Yeah, well, nobody told them to walk past me," Issei said as if it were normal, carrying Koro. "Even so, thank you, you did good and helped to ensure that justice was served," Seiryu said, smiling happily. "I'm glad I could help," Issei said. At that moment, one of the thieves stood up and Issei kicked him. He stood up and drew a weapon, but before he could do anything, Issei acted quickly, striking him hard on the forearm without measuring his strength. Crack. A disgusting sound was heard and the onlookers grimaced at the sound. The thief screamed as his arm was broken. "Damn, I went too far," Issei said nervously, acting without thinking and making a scene. Seiryu watched that display of strength in surprise. "Wow, you're strong, Issei-san," Seiryu said in surprise. "I have to say, when you hunt dangerous beasts, strength and ingenuity are everything," Issei said, calming down. "Oh, that's right, otherwise you die easily," Seiryu said, agreeing with him. "Anyway, thanks for helping. I'll take these 2 crooks to prison where they'll spend a long time," she said seriously. "Koro, take them," she said, and the small Tigu dog grew to 2 meters tall and carried them like a sack of potatoes. She approached the stolen items, which were some bags. "I'll have to return these to their owners," she said, looking at Issei with a smile. "See you later, Issei-san." "Have a nice day," Seiryu said, walking with Koro back the way the thieves had come. "Sure, likewise," said Issei, watching her leave. "What a strange girl, but she's not a bad person." And so he continued on his way, pulling the cart. Everyone present was surprised. Some girls and older ladies looked at Issei differently, some guys were scared by his strength, but Issei. He was calm, oblivious to his surroundings. Thus ends another day for Issei, but this only continues. End 11. Hours later night. Night fell over the imperial capital. It was the time when every Avildo or night worker began to move. The red light district of the capital was active as usual, while other dark areas were haunted by various thieves or murderers. Currently, a tall man with a prominent figure was walking through a set of alleyways. This man is Ogre, a captain in the Imperial Police. He followed a specific path through the alleyways, as if he were trying to make whoever followed him get lost. After about 15 minutes he arrived at a place, a kind of well-divided warehouse. He knocked on a door and it was opened by an old man with a toad-like face. The two talked for a while, and the old frog-faced man handed Ogre a bag full of money. Ogre smiled and said goodbye to the old frog-faced man, who quickly closed the shop after Ogre left. Ogre left happily. Well, the one who followed him was in shock. Koro moaned, seeing his mistress's state of shock. It can't be, Captain Ogre, why did it have to be someone bad? Sekiryuutei said, sounding sad and disappointed, seeing that the one she considered a second father was just another piece of scum from this corrupt empire. She grew up with a police officer father, a staunch advocate for justice, who died in the line of duty, something she was always proud of. Her mother had died after contracting a terminal illness. Her father was all she had left until she decided to follow in his footsteps and join the Imperial Police. There he met the man he considered a second father and who taught him everything he knows, Ogre. She is proud of him, as Ogre was considered a great example for all new recruits to the Imperial Police force. Although I've noticed he's been acting strange lately, so after sensing that something was wrong, I started following him. The first few times it was difficult to track him down, but in the end he managed it and now he understands what was happening. I had heard that old toad-faced Gamel, a merchant with many properties and businesses, had been causing trouble, although he got away with it due to lack of evidence. The strange thing was that it was always Ogre who dealt with him. Now you understand why. Ogre and Gamel were partners that went against the justice that his father taught him. This won't stay like this, Arya was right, all the high-ranking officers are a bunch of corrupt officials, they're not justice, they never were they must be eliminated, the police girl said seriously, looking at the moon that was hiding behind the clouds, and I know how they can be eliminated. And with that, she grabbed Koro and began jumping across the rooftops like a ninja. This wouldn't end like this. She would make Ogre pay for deceiving her all this time, she would make him learn the true meaning of justice, deadly justice. 12 Kill the madman in total surprise. 2 days later. Night raid base. Well, we received several missions, said Najenda, who, as always, was smoking her typical cigarette. They were all gathered together, since this time they were finally going on missions. Tatsumi, this time you will be part of the missions, you will be working alongside Akame, Najenda said, looking at the green-eyed boy who was serious. I'll do my best, Tatsumi said seriously. Yes, because otherwise you're going to die, Issei said as Tatsumi looked at him. Don't say that, friend, please, Tatsumi pleaded. But it's the truth, Issei said. Alright, stop fighting, Najenda said seriously. As I was saying, Tatsumi and Akame have the mission to eliminate Ogre, an officer of the Imperial Police. The person who requested the mission said he has a shady deal with the merchant Gamel, she explained the mission. So you two will take care of him, she said, looking at Akame. Of course, we'll eliminate the target, Akame said neutrally. Okay, now, with Gamel we have the following. He's been taking over several lucrative businesses after unjustly framing his competitors. After killing them, he kept their assets and then sold their wives and children to slave traders, Najenda said, reading from another file. This caused both Issei and Tatsumi to frown. Sheil and Leon will take care of him along with all his guards who are involved in these illicit activities, she said, and the two nodded. I'll give that old toad-faced man the beating of his life, Leon said, smiling wildly. The job will be completed properly, Sheil said, her glasses gleaming eerily. Finally, I have a mission for you, Issei, Najenda said, looking at Issei, who listened attentively. A group of raiders has been attacking merchants, people, and others traveling along a route north of the empire, Najenda explained, pointing to a map previously placed on the table. They say they are a group of 30 led by Tyrion Kallo, an assassin wanted in the capital for killing more than 100 people in 2 weeks, she said, surprising Issei. Psychologically, he's unwell, he's crazy, but he's also resourceful and good at escaping. Although he doesn't possess a Tigu, he has even managed to kill a Tigu user, she explained. She sounds like someone strong, Issei said, looking at Najenda. And he is, so you should be careful because he doesn't play fair, said the group leader, and Issei nodded. I keep that in mind with every subject I face, Issei said seriously. Okay, that's all for today, so go get ready and be careful, Najenda said, ending the meeting. Thus everyone left the place, with Issei leaving the base towards the capital. Capital. Issei walked through the streets of the capital, heading north to be near the place where he had to go to fulfill his mission. Ignoring the people around him, he reached the northern part, which differed in terms of influx compared to the southern part. While there are shops and such, it's noticeable that there's a bit more class among the locals, with wealthy people strolling around showing off everything they own. Obviously, Issei was noticed and looked at in different ways. Several people looked at him with sneers, others only gave him fleeting glances, and some women looked at him lustfully. Issei simply walked quickly, as he wanted to avoid any trouble these people might cause him. After a while he sat down at a table in a cafe while eating dessert and drinking coffee. Well, I just have to wait until nightfall, although that would be boring, Issei thought, watching people come and go. Are you going to do it? Can't you follow the protocols that group follows? Drake asked, because he didn't want Issei to get into trouble for being seen killing many subjects. I know Night Raid works at night, and I'm part of Night Raid, but also, according to the report, that group attacks at any time of day and indiscriminately, and everything is secretly endorsed by that Prime Minister, since they send him women they capture, Issei said, only hearing Drake's sigh. Just don't cause a big fuss, it's best to keep a low profile, Drake said, and Issei nodded. Having finished his prostration and passing by, he went to the entrance on this side of the city. He left calmly and went down the road that is now avoided by people who know what goes on there. He was obviously seen by several people, but they ignored him and thought Issei was some retard who went to his imminent death. 10 minutes later. Well, this is supposed to be where all these attacks are happening, Issei said, standing on a dirt path in the forest. A good place to be attacked by bandits. I walked a little further, carrying a backpack full of stones, because I wanted to attract attention. Then. Crack. He stopped when he heard a branch break. He stood in the middle of the road, listening intently to the sounds, his senses no more acute than those of a human, like a demon, and he could hear the movement in the undergrowth. At that moment he turned his head to the side, letting an arrow pass by and lodge in a nearby tree. At that moment, Ascalon drew his sword, slicing through a dagger that had been thrown at him like butter. Several arrows and daggers were launched against the chestnut tree, who, using his superior senses, moved, dodging or cutting each projectile and weapon launched against him. At that moment, all attacks ceased, and Issei heard footsteps approaching. Then I hear clapping. Well, you're a good boy, said a voice that betrayed a hint of madness. Issei turned around, just to dodge a swipe. The target was right in front of him. Tyrion Kalos, and whether he looked as demented as the image they had of him. Well kid, you'd better drop everything if you don't want to end up dead, Tyrion said to the calm chestnut-haired boy. You'll kill me anyway, right? Issei asked, already knowing the answer. A psychopathic smile appeared on Tyrion's face. Exactly, I'm going to kill you too, hehe Tyrion would say, smiling. Issei looked at his hands. Both had what appeared to be very sharp blades, they looked like claws. At that moment, several people emerged from the trees. There were more than I had written down, at least 40. Now kid, put down the backpack and prepare to die, the madman said to the brunette. No, and Issei smiled amusedly. One of the BL types accepted that and, confident, approached where Issei was. Leave the backpack, you little shit, but he immediately shut up. The reason? No, you better shut up and die, Issei said, with Ascalon impaled on the subject's head. Everyone saw that and grabbed their weapons. Tyrion was serious. I was going to kill you quickly so you wouldn't suffer, but now that you've done that, forget about dying quickly, you will suffer, Tyrion said seriously. Attack. He shouted, and his subordinates all attacked at once. Issei was calm. I'll finish this shit quickly, Issei said, taking Ascalon and acting immediately. In a blur of speed, Issei disappeared from where he was, but not before cutting several guys in half. He appeared in front of Tyrion, who reacted immediately by jumping back and dodging Issei's slash that cut 2 other subjects. The madman was impressed by the speed Issei demonstrated, as few can move like that. Issei cut 2 arrows that came from behind him to move and cut 2 other subjects. Tyrion took advantage of the fact that he was distracted and attacked, but Issei blocked the madman's attack with his sword and delivered a powerful blow that sent him crashing into a tree, almost breaking it. Ugh. Tyrion spat blood. Damn, I felt like I was dying, he said, feeling a horrible pain in his stomach. Issei continued killing Tyrion's allies, slashing or striking them, decimating the large group in a matter of seconds. Tyrion saw that, scared. He had to escape. Although he wanted to kill Issei, he wasn't stupid since he knew he could die and he liked his life of robberies and murders too much to die for playing the tough guy. Issei noticed Tyrion escaping from the place, so he ended up killing the last 5 subjects in one fell swoop to go after the madman. Ah, I've already lost it, Tyrion said, sighing in relief. I was far north, lost in the forest, nowhere in particular. Their base wasn't far away. There they kept all the things they stole and some women they used to relieve their pent-up emotions. He thought Issei had become distracted and lost track of him. Oh, so this is your rat's nest, Issei said, startling Tyrion. It can't be. How did you get here? The assassin shouted, backing away from Issei. Well, I've been following you this whole time, it's that simple, Issei said, watching the assassin who was trying to get away. But anyway, you die here, he said, approaching the crazy killer. No, wait, I can give you whatever you want, I have money, women, or I'll get you whatever you want, just don't kill me, what do you say? Tyrion said, trying to buy time to throw a poison dagger. Issei did what he was thinking, and in a second he was in front of Tyrion, piercing him with Ascalon in the chest. No, just die, he said, walking away. Tyrion opened his eyes wide as he backed away, touching his chest as blood flowed from his mouth and the hole they made in him. He looked at Issei with contempt. He wanted to continue doing mischief, but Issei stopped him. By the way, even though we work at night, I made an exception today because I was bored, said the brunette, taking out a piece of paper with a certain emblem drawn on it. Well, goodbye forever, you wimp, he said, quickly walking away. Tyrion fell to the ground, staring at the paper that flew up to where he was. Night raid, damn it, and the mad killer died. Time later. Night raid base. Are you serious? Najenda asked, looking seriously at Issei. Yes, he's more than stiff, said Issei, standing in front of the woman and some of his companions. That was reckless of you, Maraid said seriously. That's right, we're not supposed to do anything in broad daylight, it could be risky, Akame said. They're right, what you did was very reckless, Ice, but at least they're dead now, said Leon, adding that as long as the targets were eliminated, everything was fine. Well, I'm sorry, but nobody saw me, besides, that path was being avoided by those guys, although I imagine that when they smell the rottenness they'll go see what happened, Issei said, looking at his friends. Well, now that I've finished my work, I'm going for a walk. I'll leave you guys, he said, walking away from the group. Wait for me, I'm coming with you, Leon said, going behind Issei. Akame, Maraid, and Najenda sighed. Well, at least that's one less problem, Bullied said, looking at Najenda. I just hope he doesn't do something so reckless again, but anyway, he did his job. We'll have to send some people to check his lair and get the women they have there out, Najenda said. I can go, Maraid said. I will accompany her, Bullied said. Oh, Najenda said, and they both nodded. Issei tended to do things that were inopportune but good in the end. So where are we going? Leon asked, standing next to Issei. I don't know, I just want to walk for a while, Issei said, and she nodded. The two were walking along a dirt road that led to an obviously hidden alley, as this was one of the many paths used by Night Raid members to travel to and from the capital without being detected. Issei and Leon arrived at the main street of the southern part of the capital, the two walked on without further ado. I'm hungry, invite me for something, Leon asked, hugging Issei's left arm and burying it in her melons. Sure, let's go, there's a nice place that opened 2 days ago, and they have good food, Issei said, smiling slightly. Leon smiled and so they both went to that place. Grundle Mansion. Angela's office. I'm surprised that you, of all people, would tell us this, Angela said, sitting in the chair behind her desk, looking at her guest. Her daughter is with her guest. Well, you told me that whenever there was a problem, you would help me no matter what, and well, since I saw that, I haven't been able to sleep well, said Sekiryuutei ubiquitous. She, who follows the side of true justice, has had insomnia remembering what she saw that night, 2 nights ago when she saw how that man whom she admired and loved like a second father, became part of this putrid and morbid circus that is the current empire. It was good that you told me about that, at least now you know that the Imperial Police don't have a good grasp of justice, Arya said next to her friend. Sekiryuutei nodded somewhat depressed, Koro who was sitting on the floor next to her, groaned sadly for his mistress. Now let's get to the reason I summoned you here, Angela said, becoming serious. That's right, you called me, what did you want from me? Sekiryuutei asked, looking at the matriarch Grundelles. Well, it's about a very delicate matter that could make you see us differently, but because of the trust we have in you, and because I met your parents who were great people who supported my decision, I'll tell you a secret that Arya and I have, Angela said, looking at Sekiryuutei who was confused. Arya was silent, only hoping that Sekiryuutei wouldn't get angry with them, because her friend's sense of justice is very strong, and what they were about to reveal went against what she believed was right. Sekiryuutei just continued listening in silence, because Angela looked super serious. Sekiryuutei, Arya and I are allied with the Revolutionary Army in Night Raid, Angela said, dropping the bombshell that shocked Sekiryuutei. Huh? Was all the young policewoman could say. This really shocked her. Arya and Angela looked at Sekiryuutei, waiting to see what kind of reaction she would have. Unbeknownst to her, Roberta was constantly on the lookout for any wrong move that might affect the integrity of her mistress and Miss Arya. Sekiryuutei was surprised. She didn't expect her best friend and her mother to be allies of the Revolutionary Army, and worse, Night Raid. She knew about Night Raid, she heard all sorts of murders they carried out against various nobles, being considered the #1 enemy of the empire, they were bad people without scruples who murdered good innocent people, this was always said by Ogre. Why? Seiryu asked, looking at Angela. Angela knew what he meant by that question. Because the current empire is nothing but abhorrent, the rich using the poor like mere cattle, innocent people unjustly judged, unscrupulous people murdering with impunity, corruption, and all sorts of atrocious crimes ignored, Angela said, her voice clearly filled with anger. All orchestrated by Prime Minister Honest, who has manipulated the young Emperor Makoto. It's all because Honest wants to exploit the weak, and we're fed up with it. The Revolutionary Army wants to put a stop to all this, eliminating evil at its root. We want a new and more just empire to rise. We want a place where we don't have to sleep with one eye open for fear that something bad will happen to us. We want peace and freedom. That's what we fight for a place free from all evil, even if that sounds pretentious and even ridiculous, she said with utmost seriousness, while Seiryu simply listened. She never thought that way, she was blinded by the lie that she was doing things right because she thought she was upholding justice until she remembers that she has arrested the people that Ogre told her were suspected or guilty of some crime. She has gotten her hands dirty by judging innocent people. And night raid isn't what you think you've been told, Arya said seriously. Angela took a folder from her desk and handed it to Seiryu. The police took the folder and looked at its contents. He was shocked to see those night raid had murdered, those innocents. He read each file, his face growing increasingly disgusted with every word he read. Rapists, murderers, organ traffickers, slave traders, torturers, and other horrible things. Those innocents were nothing more than rotten beings who have caused 1,001 atrocities, with many victims from both the countryside and the poor parts of the capital. People of all ages, from small children to the elderly, have sadly fallen into the clutches of those monsters who pretended to be people. This I can't be, Seiryu said, placing the folder on the desk and holding her head. This is all horrible. All this time I lived deceived, I lived in a bubble of lies that I swallowed whole. I was always on the wrong side, she said, feeling dirty, disgusted, and angry. I participated in the murders of innocent people, she said, terrified. Arya and Angela felt bad for the young woman because living deceived for so long was something that hit her hard. Seiryu remained silent for a long time, by then Roberta, leaving her hiding place, brought them tea with cookies, as it seemed that her mistress was not in danger. Seiryu looked at Angela. She looked devastated. Listen, Seiryu, you were just following orders like any other police officer. You didn't know the real problem and you did what you thought was right, so don't feel bad, because in the end you were just a piece on that board, Angela said as Seiryu lowered her head. Besides, both Ogre and Gamble have their days numbered, she added as Seiryu looked at her. What do you mean? Seiryu asked, but immediately remembered something. Could it be those two? Seeing Angela nod confirmed her suspicion. Well, at least that means 2 fewer villains, she said, somewhat relieved. Angela and Arya sighed, thinking that Seiryu was going to become aggressive and attack them, but it seemed that everything took a different turn. Seiryu remained silent again, staring at the cup of tea she was given, wondering what to do with her life. So many years deceived and thinking she was doing the right thing, no more, the empire is rotten to the core and the justice she wants to deliver does not exist as such. She had reached a decision that would change her life completely. I'm leaving the police force, Seiryu said seriously. Really? You shouldn't do that. You can climb the ranks and achieve the justice you so deeply desire, Arya said, worried that her friend was giving up something she was passionate about. No, there is no justice in that place, nor will there ever be. Even if I become someone important, it will never change the fact that justice will not be properly served, Seiryu said seriously, looking at both women. Therefore, I will leave the police force, he said, because he wanted nothing to do with that rat's nest he once thought was good. Arya and Angela saw Seiryu's decision in her eyes. So what will you do? Arya asked, hoping her friend wouldn't do anything stupid. I want to be part of Night Raid, Seiryu said, surprising the 3 women in the room. This had been unexpected. And 12. 13. I couldn't think of a title. The next day. Night Raid base. So you did well in your first assassination, Issei said, looking at Tatsumi. Yes, he was a great opponent, but compared to the dangerous beasts I've fought, he was weak, Tatsumi said, though he still felt strange killing a person, as it was different from killing a creature he was used to. Well, if you put it that way it sounds simple, Issei said, recalling beasts that could have killed Tyrion and his henchmen in seconds. And you? How did it go? Tatsumi asked the other brunette. Oh, well, easy, Issei said without giving many details. Really? The green-eyed man asked, confused. Yes, the guy was crazy and had more people on his side than the report said, but it was easy to take them out, Issei said calmly. You make it sound like killing a large group of trained bandits is an easy task, Tatsumi said, giving Issei a blank stare. Well, it depends on the person. I mean, Leon told me that Akame-san has managed to kill more than 20 people by herself, Issei said, surprising Tatsumi. "Wow, that's incredible," said the green-eyed man. "I believe it," said Issei. At that moment, mine arrived where the two of them were, looking seriously at Tatsumi. "You, come with me, today it's your turn to be under my charge." The pink-haired loli pointed at the green-eyed boy. He just snorted but didn't contradict her, because in the end she was right. "See you later, Issei," Tatsumi said goodbye. "Sure, and good luck," Issei said, bidding farewell to his friend. Mine and Tatsumi left, leaving the brunette alone. Issei stood up and went to the training area. He would kill time by exercising. Grundelles residence. "Are you calmer now?" Angela asked a downcast Sekiryuutei. "Yes," she said, looking down. She received the news that Ogre had been found dead in one of the alleys of the red light district. There was a seal with the night raid symbol, and rather than bothering her, it relieved her to know that this man would no longer be committing his crimes against justice. "Have you thought things through?" Angela asked Sekiryuutei again, who nodded. "So?" She looked at Sekiryuutei. "I will remain in the police force, but I will be providing information on any illegal activity that may be occurring," Sekiryuutei said seriously, for he thought it would be better to remain in the police force, even if they were highly corrupt, as he might obtain vital information to make the Revolutionary Army's work more effective. "That's good, but if at any point you want to leave, I can talk to Nagenda about you joining the group," Angela said, and Sekiryuutei nodded. Just then Roberta arrived with a piece of paper in her hand. "Angela-sama, we received a letter from the Revolutionary Army headquarters," Roberta said seriously. Angela took the letter and read it, then became serious. "This is bad, we have to warn Nagenda as soon as possible," Angela said, looking at what the paper said. Ange, the former executioner of Heist prison, went berserk and killed 20 soldiers, in addition to escaping with a Tegu spectator. Reports indicate he has been mercilessly beheading people. He is a top priority target and his Tegu must be obtained at all costs. Night raid base. Training camp. In the large training field, Issei was doing sit-ups with weights attached to his back. He had to increase his physical performance at all costs, because if there is no one in this world who can stand up to him, then that might change in the future, because he has a bad feeling about it. The chestnut horse was focused on improving his physical condition, as he wanted to master Cardinal Crimson, so as not to suffer any wear and tear and, if possible, take it to another level. "Oh, you're working very hard, I see," said a female voice belonging to Shiel, who arrived at the scene. "Shiel, hello, how are you?" Issei asked, stopping his exercise while drying off a little sweaty head. "I'm fine," she replied, smiling. "You really give it your all in training, you're just like Bullied," she remarked. "Well, I have to, it's not always good to depend on the armor to fight, I have to become physically strong too," said Issei, because it was true, Heir proved to be strong with or without Regulus, and that was admirable, so he took him as an example. "Wow, that's admirable," Shiel said, smiling and sitting down on the edge of the hallway. "I wouldn't know if it's admirable or not," Issei said, looking at the purple-haired girl. "By the way, I have a question for you," he said, approaching her. "Which one?" Shiel asked, tilting her head. Issei sat down next to Shiel and sighed as he looked at her. "How did you end up in Night Raid?" the brunette asked, because at first glance she didn't seem to fit in, although we can't judge a book by its cover. She was a little surprised by the question, as she hadn't expected it, although she didn't mind answering it either. Shiel looked straight ahead, maintaining that calm expression, and spoke. "Well, it's a long story," Shiel said. "I wouldn't mind listening to it if it doesn't bother you, because if not, you're not obligated to tell me anything," the chestnut-haired man said in thought. "After all, I hide my true origins from them." Shiel looked at him and smiled. Issei couldn't help but think she was beautiful. "No, I'll tell you, it doesn't bother me at all," Shiel said, smiling. Issei paid attention to Shiel. Thus began her story. She had grown up in one of the slums of the capital, being clumsy even from a young age. There was nothing she could be proud of, and people even thought she was mentally ill. Even so, there was someone who wanted to be her friend despite everything. Everything was beautiful until one day something happened that changed her life forever. Her friend's ex arrived and was attacking her. Without thinking or even knowing, acting unconsciously, she killed the man. After that, her friend never wanted to hear from her again. Then the trouble started. Allies of the man who turned out to be second in command of a local gang decided to take revenge on her. They killed her parents and came after her, but in the end, those 6 men couldn't defeat her, and with a simple kitchen knife, she killed them all. That's when she understood that she was made for murder. She was eventually discovered by the Revolutionary Army and was included in the ranks of Night Raid, as her ability for assassination was not only natural but also exceptional. "Wow, I wasn't expecting that," Issei said, looking at Shiel. "Everyone here has their reasons for being in the group, but you'll have to figure that out for yourself," Shiel said, smiling. Yes, although I'm not nosy, I asked you because, to me, you don't really fit in with the group's atmosphere, Issei said sincerely. Yes, that may be so, but you see, I'm an assassin and a Tigu wielder, Shield said. The two remained silent for a long time until Shield spoke. And you? What led you to become a murderer? Well, you certainly don't look like one, Shield said, looking at the brunette who smiled at that. Heh, you're right about that, but in the end I ended up becoming one, Issei said, sighing and looking up at the sky. All I can say is that I ended up seeing some things I didn't like. My impulses got the better of me, and I felt like there was no going back, he said, recalling some things he saw in the capital, things he had only heard about or seen in news reports or movies. Although I think killing human beings is the same as killing other beings, he added, remembering the rogue demons or enemies he had killed in battles. Shield didn't understand that last part, but she didn't say anything. But you know what? I don't regret killing those I've killed, because even though the end doesn't justify the means, the end of those idiots is the salvation of thousands, and with that I feel satisfied, because in the end I will save many by eliminating the cause of the problem, he said, looking at Shield, who nodded. I understand, it may not be the best solution, but it's the only one there is, and it's better to do it to avoid more deaths, Shield said, smiling. After that they started a very trivial conversation, with Issei feeling very comfortable with Shield and she with him. Although it all ended when Leon arrived and took Issei to have fun in the city. Time later. Streets of the capital. DCH, Leon, we're separated again because of her damn debt collectors, Issei complained, walking down a quiet street. Behind him were several beaten up guys who had tried to rob him, and he was angry right now. Next time we'll go somewhere she doesn't owe anything, although I wouldn't be surprised if she owed everyone in the damn capital, and he kicked a rock that hit a thief right in the forehead, knocking him out. The chestnut-haired man finally decided to go back to base, although when he went out onto the main street, he bumped into someone, knocking that person down in the process. Ouch, did I bump into a pole? Asked the person who turned out to be Sekiryuutei Ubiquitous. Oh, sorry about that, come on, let me help you, said the brunette, approaching Sekiryuutei, who looked at him. But it's Issei-san, it's been a while, Sekiryuutei said, accepting Issei's help. I agree, Issei said, smiling. So the two of them started walking. So they're going to promote you? Issei said, surprised. Yes, since Captain Ogre is absent and I'm the one who shows more aptitude than the rest of my companions, in addition to having Koro, they plan to give me the rank of captain, Sekiryuutei said, although he didn't look happy, something Issei could notice. I see you don't like the idea very much, Issei said, as she looked at him and then sighed. It's just that a lot of things have happened that have me thinking, Sekiryuutei said, looking distressed. Koro only whimpered with sadness upon seeing his owner sad. Well, I won't ask since it seems to be something very personal, but I hope you find a solution to your problems, Issei said, placing a hand on his shoulder. She sighed and hoped that would happen. After a while they both said goodbye, and Issei saw Leon in the distance who seemed to be looking for him. The next day. Night raid base. Then I have to go meet with a contact from the Revolutionary Army in the north of the Empire, Issei said to Najenda, who nodded. Yes, it's before you reach the northern lands, a town called Answer. There you must find Leon Mathers, a bartender who is part of the resistance, and deliver this message from headquarters to him, Najenda said, handing Issei a scroll. Issei took the scroll and nodded. Well, I'm leaving now, I'll be back tomorrow or the day after, Issei said, going to his room to get ready. It's a 4-day trip if you go by transport, Bullied mentioned. Yes, I doubt you'll get there today and come back the same day, Lubbock said. I have my methods, Issei said, leaving the place. They all just stood there deep in thought. Do you think it will be that fast? Tatsumi asked. We couldn't tell you, but not even Bullied using Incursio could do that, Akame said. He may just be bragging, or he may not, nobody knows, Married said. Whatever the case, we have work to do, Najenda said, and everyone paid attention. Hours later, sunset. Answer village. Issei had already arrived at the village, how? Balance breaker night mode. He found the town thanks to directions from some travelers. Now he would look for this Leon Mathers. Agenda said he's a bartender, so we have to go to all the bars in this town, said the chestnut-haired man, venturing deeper into the town. I walked along, observing the picturesque village of possibly 500 to 1,000 inhabitants. There were shops on the main street, several bars. He wasn't stupid. He didn't go around asking for Leon Mathers, since that would be suspicious. Besides, he had already seen a picture of the individual he was looking for and didn't find him in any of the bars on the main street. He left the main street and went straight to the places furthest from it, where there were food stalls, butcher shops, vegetable stands and other things. Finally, he asked an old man about Leon Mathers, lying that he had a message for him, and told him that he worked in a somewhat hidden bar where only a few people go, but that it has the best beers in the whole north. Issei went to the place, following the old man's directions, as it was well divided between alleyways. Finally he arrived. He was west of the village, on a leafy path of alleyways. It was a rather unremarkable saloon, unlike those you see in old western movies. "Well, let's finish this," Issei said, heading to the location. No sooner had he opened the door than he caught the attention of the few people there. Some men with dangerous looks, women dressed the same way, normal people and the occasional drunk. At the bar was a man in his early 30s, dressed like a barman, with black hair and a well-groomed beard, fair skin, and a rough appearance for a simple bartender. Issei approached and took a seat at the bar. "What do you want, kid?" asked the bartender. "The strongest you have," said Issei, because although he wasn't one to drink, from time to time Azazel would take him to Tokyo where the Black Dog Bar was located, which he owned, and where a young man named Tobio worked who was the leader of a special group called /Dog. The man raised an eyebrow, looking at Issei. At first glance, he seemed like an ordinary brat, but due to his experience, he knew not to judge by appearances. He went for the drink and served it. Issei took it and swallowed it. He felt a little of the hit, but not as much as he expected, so he ended up swallowing it like water. This surprised the man, as this was the strongest liquor he had, and it was unlikely that anyone would drink it like that. "Who are you, child?" the man asked cautiously. "The messenger," Issei said, looking at the man. "Leon Mathers, I suppose," he said. "Yes, what do you expect from a simple bartender?" asked Leon Mathers. "I'm not doing anything, but I have to give you this," Issei said, taking out the scroll. When the man saw the parchment, he knew what it was about and became serious. Leon took the parchment and opened it, reading its contents. "Is it okay if you just read it like that?" Issei asked. "Don't worry, they're on our side," Leon said, referring to the revolution. "Oh, I see," said Issei. Leon finished reading and sighed. "Well, tell Nagenda that things have been a bit hectic here since Captain Esdeith's army set up camp north of the city. That's why the issue of sending supplies that are only found in the north hasn't been resolved, as they've been checking the things that come out of the side," Leon commented, and Issei nodded. "Sure, I'll tell him. I'll be going now, and here's the drink," Issei said, paying the exact amount for the drink. "You don't have to, it's on the house, in the end we're allies," Leon said, smiling. Issei smiled and nodded in thanks. So the chestnut tree left the tavern and, seeing that it was getting late, decided to leave the city and camp. "Well, this will be a good place to set up a small camp," said Issei, standing in a forest south of Answer. He was in an area near a river that flowed from a snowy mountain, and the water was somewhat cold. There were also fruit trees nearby. So he quickly got out a tent, set it up, and then with Ascalon, he started chopping wood to light a campfire. After that he went fishing for something to eat, and after that he sat down to roast a huge fish, which is a dangerous beast to eat. "I hope everyone at home is okay," she said, looking at the orange sky that signified sunset. It's not that he wasn't aware of his world and the problems there, but being in a place where corruption is worse than in Latin America makes him pay attention to those problems, but he always hopes to return to his world to end all the problems and finally be at peace with the girls and their parents. I hope this is over soon," she whispered, waiting for her dinner to be ready. 50 meters from where Issei was. In a clearing in the same forest where Issei was, there were a large number of Carpan people wearing armor. These were the soldiers who went north to wipe out the tribe in that place. Inside the largest and seemingly most luxurious tent are 2 people, 2 women. "General, how much longer will we be here?" asked the woman, who has short black hair, fair skin, a white patch covering her right eye, her left eye being amber, a feminine physique with large breasts but with stylized muscles, wearing a black t-shirt and black combat pants and black boots. "We'll move in 3 more days, Valmont. We need to check for suspicious activity around here, as I have a report that there have been some suspicious movements, and it is believed that this town has some supporters of the Revolutionary Army," said the woman sitting in a chair behind a desk. With long light blue hair, porcelain white skin, cold blue eyes, a slender and curvy body, large breasts with a peculiar mark below and above her collarbone, wearing a white suit that clung to her figure. "This is Esdeith Partas, the most dangerous general of all and the greatest weapon of the Empire, due to her Tigu, which grants her control over ice. The other is her captain, second in command in her right hand, Safia Vamar, or as she was known, Valmont, a woman who, although she does not possess Tigu, trained in the doctrine of the Imperial Fist, being a great master in this style of combat as well as being good on the battlefield. So for now, rest up, because it seems we have a lot of work to do when we return to the capital," Esdeith said seriously. "It's about the night raid assassin group, right?" Valmont said. "Yes, they've been very active lately, and they also added to their ranks that guy in red armor who killed several important nobles in various towns and within the capital," Esdeith said, looking at a wanted poster that featured a detailed drawing of Issei's balance breaker armor. "I've heard about him, they say he's dangerous," Valmont said. Haha, when I have him in my hands I will make him feel true terror, Esdeath said, smiling sadistically. Valmont became a little nervous because she knew her boss and she was the most sadistic person in the Empire. Anyway, go get some rest, Esdeath told Valmont. Of course, see you later, General, Valmont said, leaving Esdeath alone. She just stared at Issei's wanted poster and smiled. What would your screams of pain sound like, or rather, what would you look like under that armor? Esdeath wondered. Thus ends the day. Issei managed to deliver the message and receive the news for an agenda, although little does he know that he will meet someone who will turn his world upside down in this world. But that's a story for another time. And 13. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.